Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 41: Zombie Groom and Zombie Bride. Crash. In the bathroom filled with mist, Suyi was enjoying the warm water comfortably. Although there is magic in Terraria, taking a hot bath is not as difficult as it was in the Middle Ages. But in terms of enjoyment, it is definitely not as convenient as modern society. When I explore hell, I'll use lava to boil my bath water. After relaxing, Suyi began to have wild thoughts. There are still several hours before nightfall, so it's a good opportunity to rest. He had cleared out all the zombies in the mansion and brought in people like Minami Rika who were outside. Laboratory turrets were also installed on the walls and platforms of the mansion to ensure that no zombies will invade the interior. After making all these preparations, all that is left is to wait. Waiting for the night to fall, the bright red waning moon rises high in the sky. I didn't expect that my first experience of a blood moon event would not be in Terraria. But we can't be careless. While recalling the precautions of the blood moon, Suyi unconsciously fiddled with the water surface, making the bathtub ripple. Just then, a timid voice came from the bathroom door. Master, can I come in? Lily. Suyi heard the voice of the person and asked in confusion. Your room has its own bathroom, too. Saya's mansion is quite luxurious. It is a large European-style manor with all kinds of facilities. Even the guest rooms have specifications and decoration comparable to the hotel's presidential suites, allowing guests to rest in peace. Because of this, Suyi forgot one thing. That is, Lily is not a person living in modern society at all, and everything here is full of unknowns to her. I almost forgot about this. After realizing this, Suyi patted his head and called Lily in. She was just wrapped in a white bath towel, but her hair was still dry, and she obviously didn't know how to use the appliances in the bathroom. Everything in this world is so magical. Seeing Suyi fiddle with the mechanism on the wall and hot water gushed out, Lily's eyes widened with curiosity. Did you use some kind of magic stone item? But Lily didn't seem to sense any fluctuations in magic power. There is no magic in this world. Suyi stretched out his hand to test the water temperature and said casually. These are all creations called technology. Oh. Lily had a vague understanding of the concepts of magic and technology, but she didn't need to understand such things. The water temperature is about right, you can wash here. Suyi put on a bath towel and prepared to leave the bathroom. However, Lily grabbed a corner of the bath towel, and Suyi turned around to see her looking at him with her watery eyes. Can't we take a shower together? I can help the master with back scrubbing and weapon maintenance. It would be unkind to refuse the girl's courageous invitation. A moment later, Suyi returned to the bathtub, with a petite figure in front of her. Fortunately, the bathtub here is spacious enough to easily accommodate two people bathing together. Of course, it may also be that the size of the dwarfs does not take up much space. Many monsters will attack here tonight. But don't worry, I'm ready. You just need to complete your mission as a supporter, and collect as many blood beads dropped by monsters as possible. Well, Lily remembered it all. Lily nodded seriously, then reminded with a blushing face. Master, your weapon seems to be in pain. Can I help you? Sensing Lily's movements, Suyi relaxed his body and closed his eyes. Well, take good care of it. After all, there will be a tough battle tonight. Rest time is fleeting. At Suyi's call, everyone came to the hall on the first floor of the mansion. In fact, he didn't need to explain. The scarlet moonlight shining in from outside the door explained everything. The blood moon has finally arrived, everyone. Suyi's eyes swept over Nan Lixiong and others who had already signed the contract. Follow the instructions I gave you earlier and take your positions. With these turrets, the pressure from the monsters should be reduced a lot. But always be careful about whether there are enemies breaking through the defense line, and the threat of elite monsters. There are several special elite monsters in the Blood Moon. Before hard mode, the most common ones are Zombie Groom and Zombie Bride. The Zombie Groom's vitality is much higher than that of ordinary zombies, and his movements are more flexible. He can bypass obstacles and open doors. The same is true for the Corpse Bride. These two special elite monsters have unique drops. Among them is the event item that can actively trigger the Blood Moon, Blood and Tears. There are also some fashions, such as top hats, veils and wedding dresses. I don't know what role fashion will play in the realistic world of Terraria. After everyone has performed their duties and completed the tasks they are responsible for, Suyi found that Saya Gaocheng was still there, at a loss. What do I need to do? Even though this was her home, it felt like she was the guest now. You don't need to do anything, just wait for the night to end. Suyi spoke in a calm tone, as if the red waning moon hanging high in the night sky did not exist. But try not to go out to avoid accidents. You can find a room, close the door, and hide in a corner and count numbers silently. Hold on until about 7 a.m., and the effect of the blood moon will fade away. Hearing this, Gaocheng Saya looked at Suyi somewhat unwillingly. I want to sign a contract with you, too. The latter was not surprised, but still gave a kind warning. You should know what this means. Yes, I heard about it from Miyamoto-san. Saya gritted her teeth but made up her mind. I have nothing left. Joining your team will help me survive better. It's a very rational conclusion, but perhaps also a bit emotional, such as the idea of not wanting to be left behind. After signing the contract, Suyi assigned the function of explosion expert to Saya. This function can open the explosives store to purchase explosive props such as grenades, bombs, detonators, etc. However, the price is relatively expensive, and only grenades are relatively cheap and affordable. Find a high point and throw grenades at the place where the monsters gather. You should be able to do this, right? After all, this is your home, and you should be more familiar with the structure here. Okay, I understand. After being assigned the task, Saya seemed to have unloaded some kind of burden and left Suyi's sight with easy steps. This guy might unexpectedly have the potential to be a masochist. Shrugging his shoulders, Suyi also stepped out of the hall and came to the empty courtyard. Unlike the others in charge of guarding the mansion, he will face the incoming blood moon monster head-on. Not long after the blood moon rose, the turrets placed in different positions began to make frequent, whooshing, noises. Blue lasers shuttled through the darkness, accompanied by the smell and sound of burning flesh. It's finally started. Suyi silently watched the tide of monsters with loose heads in the distance, his eyes emitting a faint light. This is the result of drinking the night vision potion, which allows him to see easily even in dark environments. Suddenly, Suyi's eyes focused and his brows gradually frowned. Among a group of ordinary zombies, there were two enemies with very distinctive dressing styles. Suyi recognized their identities at a glance, the zombie groom and the zombie bride. However, the images of these two elite monsters are somewhat unexpected, but seem to be reasonable. This zombie couple is Saya's parents who could not be found during the day. Zombie groom, Takagi Soichiro, and zombie bride, Takagi Yuriko. Wow, I think I know where Komuro Takashi went. Seeing the way these two people appeared, Suyi couldn't help but feel sad. Isn't this guy the clown? Chapter 42, Old Man, it's time to get gold coins. Takashi Komuro may be the Joker, but it's unlikely that he'll appear during today's Blood Moon event. Because this special elite monster will only appear during the Blood Moon after you defeat Roshan and Terraria enters hard mode. The only enemies tonight are the constantly pouring zombies, the mutated bloody zombies, and the blood drop monsters wandering in the sky. Of course, there are also the Takagi couple mixed in with the zombies. They were like generals going to war, surrounded by a horde of zombies and arriving at the mansion that originally belonged to them. There are many enemies. Anyway, just deal with them slowly. Suyi half-crouched on a high platform and did not jump directly into the melee among the zombies. The first challenge faced by the fragile zombies is to break through the defense line formed by the laboratory turrets. The moment they step into the turret's warning range, lasers will instantly pierce through their bodies. The surging swarm of zombies was like a cake with its edges slowly being chopped off and was constantly being consumed by the turret. In fact, this is only the lowest level turret. Above it, there are advanced turrets that can fire high-speed water streams, shotgun shells, flames and even plague bombs. If you want to make these turrets, you need to unlock the corresponding encrypted prototype drawings. Great, since there is no problem dealing with these zombies, the next step is to build a monster spawning site. Suyi, who was observing from the side, nodded, and was quite satisfied with the effect of the turret. Although the turret will become useless when challenging a boss-level enemy, this does not affect its function. Monster Farm, whether it is Terraria or another sandbox game, it is a must-see part. Killing monsters can obtain dropped materials, props, equipment and coins. Building a monster farm can effectively accumulate a large amount of resources, and at the same time it can also turn crisis events into opportunities. This blood moon is a preview of Su Yi's plan. If the actual combat effect is good this time, he will actively summon the blood moon in the Terraria world next time. After all, the monsters in Terraria are much richer than these poor zombies. After being killed, these zombies will leave behind nothing but corpses, without dropping even a single copper coin. Fortunately, the turret made by Su Yi does not need to consume energy and can continue to defend. Bang, 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 bang. Rhythmic gunshots were heard from the other side of the manor. Hearing the noise, Su Yi knew that it was Nan Lixiang who took action. Her mission is to clear the sky of its enemies, ugly monsters called Didi monsters. It is a flying enemy that will only spawn during a blood moon. Although it is called flying, it is actually more like hovering. So its speed is not very fast, and sticky plasma will drip from its body as it floats, hence its name. For an ace sniper who won the grand prize in the national gathering competition, it was a waste of talent for Minami Rika to deal with these guys. Bang! A Didi monster that was floating towards Su Yi's head was blown up in midair, and blood splattered everywhere. I should have told her earlier that the monsters near me will take care of themselves. Su Yi, who was covered in blood, wiped his face helplessly. Since his body was already stained with the smell of blood, he no longer stood by and watched, but joined the battle directly. First, two-phase laser balls were fired to clear out a blank area for the zombies that had managed to get through the turret's defense area. Afterwards, Su Yi, holding a grass sword, went straight into close combat with the remaining enemies. Rather than a fight, it was more like a one-sided massacre. Too slow. Su Yi expressionlessly cut off the zombie's head. He then dodged another enemy's attack by leaning sideways, kicked him away with his backhand, and shot him to death with a thermal plasma cannon. After getting used to being beaten by Miss Sword Princess in various postures and styles, Su Yi even felt that the clumsy movements of these zombies were somewhat cute. Drink. Just then, a rough and violent shout was heard. Feeling the powerful momentum, Su Yi frowned and raised his knife to block the attack from behind. Clang. The collision between the blades sent out a string of sparks. A zombie who can use weapons. Oh, it's you. Su Yi stepped back a few steps to create some distance, and only then could he see the attacker's face clearly. The other person was a burly man wearing a tuxedo and a somewhat funny-looking top hat. Then, a female figure in a blood-red wedding dress slowly walked out from behind him and accompanied him. They were Saya Takagi's parents, Soichiro Takagi and Yuriko Takagi. Although they were also attacked by the turret, they did not suffer many injuries. Is it because the elite monsters have higher defense? Looks like I have to deal with you guys myself. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from these two people, Su Yi couldn't help but get excited. He licked the corner of his mouth, and the boiling fighting spirit made his blood surge and fill his whole body. It would be too boring to just kill the small fry. It's more interesting to fight elite monsters alone. It would be even better if these two could get some equipment. While thinking, Su Yi switched the weapon in his hand to a super thermal ion cannon. He is not a stubborn person. He will not fight with swords when he sees that the enemy has strong melee ability. There are so many weapons in the inventory, and they are meant to be used as long as they can kill the enemies. Takagi Soichiro tried to block with the samurai sword in his hand, but the phase laser cannon had no entity. The moment it touched the blade, it exploded into a spherical high-temperature particle field, continuously causing damage to the zombie couple in it. Then another series of laser beams fell on them one after another, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. This kind of unethical fight seemed to make Takagi Soichiro angry. He shouted loudly, used the force to jump up, and tried to quickly approach Su Yi's position. However, the latter casually shot out his grappling hook and climbed directly to another platform. Goodbye, both of you. Su Yi narrowed his eyes and shot out the last two-phase laser balls. I will take good care of your daughter. The zombie groom and zombie bride, who were already at low health, melted on the spot in the high-temperature particle force field. However, Su Yi noticed that there were several items left at the place where they died. This immediately perked him up and his eyes lit up. As expected, the equipment exploded. Chapter 43, Spoils from the Blood Moon. As elite monsters, the Gaocheng couple dropped several items. These include a top hat, a veil, and a wedding dress. These are non-equipment type vanity items. When he got them, Su Yi was also curious about what effect the fashion would have. Top hat white fashion, covers the head protection when worn, will not be damaged. Seeing the identification result of top hat, Su Yi tried to equip it. The jungle armor's head protection, jungle hat, suddenly turned into a black top hat. Good, I'll wear it from now on. Now you don't have to endure the helmet color issue for the set bonus anymore. As for the other two pieces of fashion, they were obviously not for Su Yi to wear, so they were put into the inventory for the time being. In addition to these fashions, there is also a palm-sized red teardrop-shaped prop on the ground. Blood Tears Green summons a blood moon, can only be used at night. I was originally planning to make one using the dropped materials, but now it saves me some trouble. Su Yi casually put the blood and tears into the inventory. He was not unfamiliar with this thing. In the Disaster module, he can directly spend 10 inches blood pearls to make a blood tear. The blood beads come from monsters generated during the duration of the blood moon. As long as you kill enough, you can get unlimited refills. However, the drop rate of blood pearls is not high, and ordinary monsters only have a 10% chance of dropping them. Elite monsters like Zombie Bride and Zombie Groom only have a 25% chance. Among the remaining spoils, there were no blood beads, but there was a weapon. The name of this weapon is very simple, it's called Samurai Sword. Katana Blue provides 18 points of melee damage. It's this weapon. Su Yi took the knife in his hand with great surprise and waved it a few times. This is also a weapon in the Terraria world, but usually, it can only be purchased through traveling merchants. And the price is very expensive, costing a full 20 gold coins. The reason why it is so expensive is that it can be obtained in the early stage and has excellent panel properties. 18 points of damage, equivalent to the grass sword that Su Yi spent a lot of effort collecting materials to make. Although the samurai sword does not have any special effects, it has a critical hit rate several times higher than similar weapons. To put it broadly, it is the simple and crude beauty of numbers. I remember that Takashiro Soichiro did have a knife in the plot, but it was later given to Busujima Seiko. Could this be the knife? After thinking for a moment, Su Yi felt that this guess was more reliable. But now is not the time to think too much. Su Yi glanced at the blood-red waning moon hanging high in the night sky and returned to combat mode. It looks like tonight will be a very long night. The battle continued until dawn the next day. With the defense line composed of turrets, Su Yi did not feel much pressure and could fight as he pleased. Although he had a lot of injuries on his body, it was not a big problem. Just go find Shizuka Marikawa who is hanging out in the back for treatment, and you will be back to normal in a short amount of money. Shizuka Marikawa, who serves as a nurse, can heal all friendly units within a certain range. Moreover, such treatment is not just simple recovery, it can even remove negative states. Of course, this service is charged, this is the rule of Terraria. Simply restoring life doesn't cost much, but curing negative states is expensive. The cost of treatment is cumulative for each negative status. As long as Marikawa Shizuka is there, it doesn't matter even if Su Yi is infected with the zombie virus. At most, he can just spend money to avoid disaster. According to Su Yi's test, Shizuka's treatment can only be effective for him and the contractor. It seems that I have one more way to sign a contract. While enjoying the massage from the high school girl, Su Yi thought lazily. The blood moon seemed to attract all the zombies in the surrounding area. After the blood moon ended, the area near the mansion became much safer. But even if there are still wandering zombies, the turret will react. In other words, this place may be the safest area in the entire Beju city, no doubt about it. Just then, Lily ran over with a box and put it in front of Su Yi as if to ask for credit. Master, I have sorted out the spoils I collected last night. Very good. Su Yi touched Lily's head, opened the box, and a container interface popped up in front of him. Hundreds of zombies were killed last night, so the number of blood beads was naturally not small, nearly 200 in total. Blood beads can be used to craft any vanilla buff potion, but this is a bit wasteful. Because the original potion can be made with herbs, the most important function of the blood beads is to make special potions unique to disaster. For example, the Omniscience potion can provide the auxiliary effects of 3 buff potions in one bottle. It allows Su Yi to have hunting, danger perception and cave exploration states at the same time, and the duration is longer. There is also a calcium potion that can make Su Yi immune to fall damage and allow him to ignore gravity. No matter how high you fall from, you will not be hurt at all. There are also some potions with more powerful effects that require materials dropped by certain bosses. These are not things Su Yi can do now. In addition to the blood beads, there are several other items in the box. Coin slot orange summons a temporary pet that allows you or others to access your piggy bank space. Shark tooth necklace blue, your attack ignores the target's 5 points of defense. These two items are special drops that only appear during the blood moon. Although the drop rate is relatively low, because the number of kills is large enough, there are several identical items in the box. The coin slot can summon a flying piggy bank, which can be used to easily deposit and withdraw items. For adventurers, it is equivalent to carrying a large capacity space backpack with them. This practicality is worthy of its orange level of rarity. Although the shark tooth necklace is only of blue rarity level, it is a rare defense reducing accessory in Terraria and is also very practical. It's a pity that several items that can only be obtained through fishing are missing. Suyi thought with regret. These two items are not all the special drops from the Blood Moon event. If you fish during the Blood Moon, there is a chance that you will catch elite monsters, wandering eyefish and zombie mermaid. They also have their own special drops, and they are quite strong, so they can be used all the way to hard mode. When we return to the Terraria world, we can try to summon the Blood Moon again. Try to collect all the special drops. Chapter 44 Desert Scourge. After surviving the first Blood Moon, Suyi has firmly established his foothold in Beju City. Over the next few days, he spent most of his time exploring Terraria. However, I will also take time to go to the bed market for a happy, 0 yuan shopping event. Anyway, the whole city has become a dead city. Instead of letting the things in the store be buried by time and dust, it is better to make use of their remaining value. According to the previous plan, Suyi robbed several jewelry stores very purposefully and successfully seized a large number of gems. Although only a few specific types of gems can be identified as materials under Terraria rules. But it's free after all, so it would be a waste not to take it. Suyi handed over the subsequent exploration missions to Seiko Busujima, Rika Minami and others. With their fighting power and Marikawa Shizuka's medical support, there shouldn't be any safety issues. Even if an accident happens, you can still be resurrected. Suyi assigned all of Saya and Busujima Seiko's roles to businessmen. That's right, when the number of contractors increased, he found that functions could be redistributed. Multiple contractors can obtain the function of merchant at the same time. It's just that some contractors have contract skills, which will have additional effects when performing specific functions. At the same time, Suyi also gave them the right to pass through the Terraria world, but they could not go to the main world where they were. This can also be regarded as a guarantee that the gods of Terraria will not discover the existence of time travelers. After dealing with these things, Suyi put all his energy into the powerful enemy he was about to challenge. The surface desert area of Terraria. On the wide battle platform paved with wooden boards, Suyi looked out at the sand dunes below, holding his breath. The next moment, a huge sandworm covered with a brown and yellow exoskeleton suddenly emerged from the yellow sand and rushed towards Suyi. The desert scourge has awakened. Closing square bracket. Here it comes. Feeling the shock coming from below, Suyi tensed up and kept changing his position on the combat platform. With an ear-piercing scream, the desert scourge emerged from where he was originally, and used its huge mouthparts to tear the wooden board into pieces. The boss in the game won't destroy the venue. Never mind. Suyi swung out the grappling hook and raised the superthermal ion cannon to fire continuously. The desert scourge is composed of multiple segments, which can be damaged in multiple stages. Therefore, attacks, spells, and weapons that penetrate are very effective against worm-like enemies. The phase laser ball of the superthermal ion cannon has a powerful range-killing effect. Can reduce the health of desert scourge at an alarming rate. However, the latter will not wait to die foolishly. After drilling through the wooden board, the boss twisted his body and flipped over, escaping the killing range of the laser ball. When it emerged from the desert again, its body was covered with a layer of shell made of condensed sand. Every time it swung its huge body, missiles of sand and gravel would fly towards it. Accompanied by the howling strong wind, it is almost impossible to open your eyes. No wonder we have to fight it in the desert. This is the home turf of the desert scourge. Before this challenge, Suyi had actually tried it once. Although the preparations were very thorough, all the enhancement potions were used. But Suyi still couldn't avoid the fate of being killed at first sight. Fortunately, after signing a contract with Shizuka Marikawa, the duration of the death penalty was halved. You only need to spend half a day in Terraria to return to Terraria. But this time, Suyi summoned the desert plague insects with the belief that he would win. Unlike King Slime, Desert Scourge is the first boss of the Calamitous mod. It cannot be spawned naturally and can only be summoned using the Desert Pendant item. To make this item, you need a material called Storm Jaw, which is dropped from the Storm Ant Lion. In order to collect the required number of Storm Jaws, Suyi has been exploring the desert a lot in the past few days. The feeling of being exposed to the wind and sun is like playing the role of a civil engineer. However, in addition to the Storm Jaw, Suyi also had an unexpected gain when he was looking for trouble with the Storm Antlion. Squeak. Just as Suyi was dodging the barrage of sand blocks from bottom to top, two small antlion babies are charging fearlessly. The target of their charge was the desert plague insects that were thousands of times larger than them. Although the result of the charge was undoubtedly being knocked away. But at the moment of the collision, a large amount of electric sparks burst out from the two antlion babies, while causing considerable damage to the Desert Scourge. The baby antlion righted itself unharmed and continued its attack. You're very motivated. Seeing the heroic performance of the two antlion babies, Suyi also ignited his fighting spirit. I can't fall behind either. These two baby antlions are servants he summoned using the Storm Antlion staff. The duration is infinite, and the baby antlion will not die and can keep fighting. It has a certain level of intelligence and can proactively search for enemies and launch attacks. This kind of summoned creature is what all summoners dream of. But in Terraria, this is standard for all summon weapons. Boom. While drinking the magic potion, Suyi was not idle either, constantly throwing grenades into the desert below. These grenades were not the treasures in Minami Rika's home, but props purchased from the arms store. Each bullet can cause up to 60 points of range damage, but it is easy to hurt yourself by mistake, so it is rarely used in normal combat. As for now, the Desert Scourge is big enough that I can throw it with my eyes closed. After a series of thunder-like explosions, two smaller, yellow sand bugs emerged from the flying sand and dust. But the desert plague seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Seeing this scene, Suyi suddenly had an idea in his mind. It has very little health left and has entered a violent state. Maybe I can pass this time. As long as you kill these two yellow sand evil bugs, you can force the desert plague bugs with low health out of the sand. The attack method of the yellow sand bug is similar to that of the desert scourge bug, both of which involve ramming and firing sand and gravel barrages. However, their damage and health are only at the elite monster level, so they are relatively easy to deal with. If it were the old Suyi, he might have been in a mess for a while. But after rigorous training from Sword Lady, he is now able to parry and dodge in a very professional manner. At least the boss in front of him was not as scary as I see in her serious state. After some effort, Suyi finally blasted the two attacking yellow sand bugs into pieces. Just as he expected, after all his subordinates were killed, the Desert Scourge couldn't help but reveal its true form. Good opportunity. While the desert plague was squirming and accumulating kinetic energy, Suyi opened fire continuously. Groups of phase laser balls kept bombarding the body of the Desert Scourge as if they were free magic. Feeling the pain, the desert plague insect rushed forward despite Suyi's attack, trying to bite the human in front of it in one bite. Chapter 45, The Zenith Sword is a Distant Legend. At the critical moment, Suyi suddenly jumped lightly, and a round slime appeared under him. A slime mount summoned by Slime Saddle. Goodbye, you. After leaving a word, Suyi rode the slime into the air and quickly escaped from the attack range of the Desert Scourge. The double jump provided by the cloud in a bottle also works on mounts. Moreover, the characteristic of the slime mount is that it accelerates the vertical rise and fall, so it can jump to a higher place. The most important thing is that when it falls on an enemy, it will not suffer collision damage. It can also cause damage to monsters and gain a certain amount of elasticity. With this feature, Suyi can ride the slime and jump back and forth on the huge body of the Desert Scourge. The shallow dungeon in Orario is small, and the city with tall buildings is more suitable for hooks. In the world of Terraria, mounts are even more important in boss battles. As Suyi continued to bombard, the number of segments of the Desert Scourge became fewer and fewer. In the end, the explosion blew up the body and the head into pieces. Only after confirming that the boss had dropped the treasure bag and was completely dead did Suyi breathe a sigh of relief. It's over. Compared to the performance when challenging the Slime King for the second time. In this battle, Suyi's fighting was obviously more mature and relaxed. There are many auxiliary effects brought by buff potions. There are also results from the training she received from Ice. Feeling that he was getting stronger, Suyi was filled with a sense of accomplishment. Of course, the most rewarding moment is when you pick up the treasure bag. After impatiently opening the Desert Scourge's treasure bag, Suyi's inventory contained a bunch of junk. It can't be said to be garbage, but the things are too fragmented. Although it was a boss in the desert, a bunch of corals, shells, starfish and other materials appeared in the treasure bag. I remember that in the setting of Cataclysm, the desert in Terraria was originally an ocean. It's not surprising that these things can be opened. These fragmented materials can be made into marine debris. This is a special material used to craft marine-themed equipment and tools. The armor it makes is called Victory Tide Armor. Wearing this armor will make you move faster in water, and it also increases health regeneration and damage. Obviously, this is equipment specially designed for exploring underwater environments. After defeating the Desert Scourge, Suyi can begin exploring the special area under the desert, the Sunken Sea. But before that, there are some other items in the treasure bag. Rather, these materials are just incidental products. The real treasure of the Desert Scourge lies in the remaining items. These props are a necklace, a pair of swords, and a small box. Sand fishing box blue, open it to get fishing-related accessories or potions. Hyperion necklace green, slowly restores oxygen when stationary in water and increases mining speed in liquids by 15%. Sahara double blade green, provides 23 points of melee damage. Each time you hit the enemy, you will get 2 quicksand flying knives to automatically attack the enemy. You can store up to 10 knives. Of these 3 items, only the last one is a weapon. Suyi opened the fishing box on the spot. It was a colorful bag prop similar to a treasure box. If you are lucky, you can get fishing-related accessories, but unfortunately Suyi only got 2 bottles of potions. Fishing potion blue increases fishing power by 15 points, lasts for 8 minutes. That's fine. Suyi reluctantly accepted his luck. Fishing potion is one of the potions that he is currently short of ingredients for. To make fishing potions, you need the material, crunchy honey block. It is the product of liquid honey coming into contact with magma. Can also be crafted using honey blocks at a furnace. If you want to get honey blocks, you need to explore deeper into the underground jungle. If you can find a beehive, you can get a lot of honey blocks. Of course, you will also find a sleeping boss, the queen bee. Although he had just killed the Desert Scourge, Suyi had no intention of challenging the queen bee. At least after defeating the Skeleton King and upgrading your equipment to a certain level, it won't be too late to look for trouble with this guy. The Hypo necklace is an accessory designed for underwater exploration that provides almost unlimited oxygen. However, Suyi can make Gill potion that allows breathing underwater, which has a more flexible effect. Anyway, there's still space for accessories on my body, so put it on first. Suyi hung the necklace on her chest, and it felt a little cold when she touched it. It definitely helped when exploring the Sunken Sea. The Sahara Twin Blades is one of the 5 unique weapons that can be dropped by the Desert Scourge. Its attack range is short, but it has decent damage and useful special effects. By Aurario's standards, this is considered a magic sword. I didn't expect Grass Sword to retire so soon. Suyi tried out his new weapons and felt that the dual swords were more handy. After all, the Grass Sword is a broadsword type weapon, which is a bit troublesome to use. But this does not mean that Suyi's previous efforts were in vain. The Grass Sword has another use besides being a weapon. That is to use it as material together with the other 3 weapons to make a more advanced Blade of Eternal Night. This is a weapon with the potential to be continuously strengthened, and can eventually be made into the strongest weapon in the original Terraria, the Zenith Sword. For Suyi now, the Zenith Sword is still a distant legend. But he will soon become the new legend of Aurario. After challenging the Desert Scourge, Suyi felt that he had accumulated a lot of great deeds, so he went to find Hephaestus to update his ability values. A few minutes later, the goddess looked at the divine words on Suyi's back and fell into deep thought. Suyi. Affiliation, Hephaestus family. Race, human. Occupation, adventurer. Arrival floor, 1. Weapon, Sahara Blades. Ability value, LV1 can be improved. Strength 1400 SSS. Stamina 1500 SSS. Dexterity 1000 SS. Agility 950 S. Magic 1500 SSS. Skills, Terran Artisan. Development ability, to be selected. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 46, Is Your Alchemy Legitimate? Tell me the truth, what have you been doing all this time? Inside the blacksmith shop, Hephaestus stared at the young man in front of her with a serious face. Are you going to do something extremely dangerous again? Neither, right. It was the first time that Zhi saw his goddess showing this expression, and his tone became a little uncertain. These days, he had simply killed nearly 5-digit zombies in Bedmaster City, survived a blood moon, and killed 2 elite monsters. Then he challenged the Desert Scourge. Although he died once, he managed to get the first kill the second time. It seems that he did do a lot of dangerous things. Seeing Zhi's acquiescence, Hephaestus sighed and put her hand on his head and rubbed it. For me, the safe return of the children of the clan is more important than anything else. Well, I know what I'm doing. There won't be any real danger. Zhi explained, and then looked at the form engraved with his ability values. Impatiently. By the way, can I upgrade now? That's right. Hephaestus knew he was trying to change the subject, so she let him continue. Before this, what happened to your basic abilities? This is the first time I've seen a situation where the 999-point limit was exceeded. Generally speaking, the value range of basic ability is 0 to 999. Expressed in letters, it is from I to S, a total of 10 levels, with an upper limit of 999 points, which is S level. But Zhi's situation is very special. Except for agility, all his basic abilities have exceeded the limits of ordinary adventurers. There were even a few who reached the unheard of level of SSS. Don't you know, goddess? Zhi was not too surprised, as he had a good idea of his own improvement in strength. The reason why his endurance could reach SSS level was mostly due to the life crystal. Magic power is easier to explain. Basic abilities will improve with the frequency of training in actual combat. Zhi spent most of his time in battle using the super thermal ion cannon to consume magic power. In addition, he actually drank the magic potion as if it were water, so the total amount of magic consumed in a day was estimated to be more than the magic consumed by an ordinary adventurer in a month. Over time, the magical attributes were forcibly refined to this incredible level. Even better than a serious wizard-type adventurer. As for the 3 items of strength, dexterity and agility, in addition to Zhi's own accumulated experience, they were able to break through the S level. There are also the basic abilities added by Terra craftsmen which should not be underestimated. Hephaestus had obviously thought of this as well, and said thoughtfully. It seems that the skills you acquired earlier were very helpful in your growth. It only took half a month to reach LV2. I'm afraid he is the fastest adventurer in the history of Warario. Even for Loki's sword princess, it took her a full year to reach level 2. As she spoke, Hephaestus seemed to have thought of something and reminded him helplessly. Once the news of the upgrade gets out, you will definitely be talked about by others. Even other gods will be interested in you. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. For better or worse, trouble is bound to come. The fastest in history. I'm still a long way from here, goddess. Hearing the goddess's comments, Zhi shook his head. At this moment, he remembered the upgrade speed of the original hero Bell. It takes 1.5 months to reach LV2, another month to reach LV3, and 2 months to reach LV4, and another 2 months to reach LV5. In just half a year, he achieved a goal that 99% of adventurers could never accomplish in their lifetime. In comparison, his current results don't seem to be a big deal. Hearing Zhi's answer, Hephaestus swallowed back the words she was about to say. She originally wanted to remind Zhi not to become arrogant because of his rapid improvement in strength. Unexpectedly, the child didn't need her to remind him at all and didn't have such an idea at all. This made the goddess feel pleased and praised, but also a little disappointed. I always feel like she didn't help much in Zhi's growth. Goddess. Zhi's voice called Hephaestus back to consciousness. It's okay, let's talk about upgrading. The goddess picked up the paper with the ability values, printed on it again and scanned it all the way to the end. Technically speaking, you are in the process of upgrading now. Only after completing the ability selection will it be officially upgraded to LV2. Ability selection. Zhi interrupted thoughtfully, does it mean developing ability? Yes. Hephaestus lightly wiped the paper with divine blood. Several separate paragraphs of golden text emerged from above. The development ability will appear in the ability value panel of the clan through upgrade. Of course, this is not necessarily the case. Whether or not you can gain development abilities when you level up also depends on the great deeds that the adventurer has accumulated so far. If there are no great deeds worth mentioning, even if you level up, you may not be able to learn the development capabilities. On the other hand, if you accumulate more great deeds, you will also gain multiple development abilities to choose from. As for what kind of development capabilities can be generated, it depends on the experience of the person involved. If you have been poisoned and recovered, you may gain abnormal resistance. If you kill a lot of beast monsters, you may gain the hunter ability. For members of Hephaestus's family, the most common ability to develop is definitely there is forging. After all, Suyi took the updated ability value result from the goddess and browsed it. This should be considered our clan's signature development ability. Only highly skilled blacksmiths will gain this ability when they level up. Hephaestus gave a somewhat vague answer. In fact, not everyone in the Hephaestus clan, which is famous for producing many blacksmiths, can acquire this development ability. A blacksmith with mediocre qualifications and unable to produce excellent works will eventually become just like everyone else. But you don't necessarily need this ability. After thinking for a moment, Hephaestus added, "Didn't you make a magic sword without forging before? If we look at other development capabilities, there may be better options." "Yes, I understand, goddess." Suyi nodded. There were 3 development abilities in front of him for him to choose from. One of them is forging and the other 2 are mystic and stigma alchemy. Wait, what the hell? After reading to the end, Suyi seemed to have thought of something and his eyes widened in surprise. This development ability, is it serious? Chapter 47, The Adventurer's House with a Booming Business. If the 3rd development ability, stigma alchemy, is really as Suyi thought, then he can only be thankful that the ability value does not describe the detailed effects of developing abilities. In fact, even the gods who bestow divine favors and create ability values cannot fully know what abilities their followers will have. In other words, even the gods cannot imagine how humans in the lower world can grow from great deeds. For this reason, information about developing capabilities depends entirely on continuous practice and analysis of existing intelligence. Most of the development abilities are pretty generic, and there are a lot of repetitive effects. Of course, there is also a very small chance that a new ability with powerful effects and never before seen will appear. Such abilities are called rare abilities. There is no doubt that stigma alchemy that appears in Suyi's ability value is a truly rare ability. It's such a headache. Hephaestus rubbed her brows. If it was just a common ability like abnormal resistance or hunter, she could still provide some suggestions. But now the 3 abilities that Suyi can choose from are all pretty good. Forging, needless to say, a blacksmith with this ability can make better equipment. Mystery is the development ability related to potions, magic props, and alchemy. It is said that by taking mystery to its extreme, one can create the philosopher's stone that can grant people immortality. As for stigma alchemy, Hephaestus didn't know much about it, but she was sure it was a rare ability. It's up to you to choose between these 3 abilities. The goddess handed the question back to Suyi, but still reminded him. In this regard, you can go to your adventure consultant for advice. Suyi's adventure consultant is Miss Aina. If she knew that the new adventurer in her charge reached LV2 in just half a month, she would probably be so surprised that her mouth would not close. But Suyi shook his head, having already made up his mind. My lady goddess, I choose stigma alchemy as my development ability. Are you sure? Hephaestus was a little surprised, as if she didn't expect Suyi to make a decision on the spot. Although this may be a rare ability, no one knows what effect it will have. If the effect doesn't suit you, you might as well choose the other 2. Suyi thought to himself, it's a good thing you don't know what effect it has, otherwise I would have died on the spot today. In addition, there is another benefit to choosing stigma alchemy. That is, after obtaining the development ability related to alchemy, it can explain why there are so many magic potions and even magic books in his shop. In the past, I could get away with it by saying, I have a friend. As the number of magic props in the store increased and they became more and more advanced, this excuse no longer worked. Now I happen to have the ability of stigma alchemy, which solves a problem at the same time. Just choose it. Suyi did not change his mind, but added one more sentence. But I want to upgrade in a day or 2, is that okay? Of course you can. Hephaestus was stunned when she heard this, and quickly understood Suyi's idea. Do you want to raise the remaining agility to above S level? Well, since there is still room for improvement, we can't waste this last chance. Su Yi smiled. It felt good to be understood. After all, after upgrading, the ability value of LV1 is fixed. Adventurers perform upgrades just like stacking boxes. Although the basic abilities will be cleared, the attributes of the previous level will be accumulated and will not disappear. Therefore, the higher the basic ability during the upgrade, the more stable the strength after the upgrade. If Su Yi didn't know that SSS level is the limit of the limit, he would have to get 9,999 at least. After all, whether it's killing monsters or gaining experience, these are areas that Terraria excels in. Once the blood moon comes, summon the creature and you're done. After saying goodbye to Hephaestus, Su Yi did not leave the Tower of Babel, but came to his own shop. Different from the deserted scene when it first opened, there was already a long queue at the door of the adventurer's house. Business is booming. Su Yi nodded with satisfaction and walked into the store from the back door. Hestia, wearing a blue and white shop assistant uniform, was busy introducing products to customers and looked much more diligent. Of course, this also has something to do with the fact that she is the only staff member in the store. You're finally here. Seeing Su Yi appear in front of her, Hestia rushed over immediately as if she had seen a savior. Going to work is so scary, woo-woo. There are so many troublesome customers, and many products are out of stock, you have to replenish them quickly. Got it, get off me first. Although Su Yi didn't mind such intimate actions, there were so many adventurers watching nearby. During the lunch break, Su Yi called the goddess of rice bugs to the studio on the second floor. First, tell me what's missing. Soon, Hestia handed a list to Su Yi. Among all the products on the shelves, flaming arrows have the highest sales volume and are often out of stock. The next are weak healing potions and weak mana potions. Both of these potions are cheaper than potions with the same effects on the market, so it is natural that they sell well. On the contrary, the sales of torches were a bit strange. They sold very well at the beginning, but then gradually no one bought them. Because one torch can be used for a long time, people don't need to refill it. Seeing that Su Yi was a little confused, Hestia puffed out her chest very proudly. This is the information I got from the adventurers in the store. I see. Su Yi nodded suddenly. It turned out that the quality was too good and no one updated the product. There is always a feeling that I have gotten myself killed. But anyway, he didn't have the trouble of holding back the goods, so if the torches couldn't be sold, then they couldn't be sold. The extra torches can be made into flaming arrows, which will sell even better. By the way, how come you suddenly have time to come to the store? Because I want to see Hestia at work. Su Yi's answer made the goddess of rice bugs panic. I guess I wasn't slacking off just now. I was working very hard the whole time. It's really hard work, I saw it all. Su Yi touched Hestia's head and praised her. Lady Hestia has also grown a lot. If the goddess saw it, she would definitely be surprised. Hehe. The corners of Hestia's mouth curled up when she thought of Hephaestus being shocked to see her working so hard. But it's a bit too much for you to handle it alone here, so how about this? After thinking for a moment, Su Yi clapped his hands and made up his mind. I'll just find a new clerk. Chapter 48, Putting on a Wedding Dress for the Goddess. Well, let me introduce you, this is Lily. Pulling the dwarf girl in front of him, Su Yi introduced her to Hestia. She is a partner I met after becoming an adventurer, and she is also my supporter. Hey, a child from the Soma clan. Hestia looked at Lily in front of her, keenly aware of the source of the grace from God that she received, and looked at Su Yi in surprise. Even she had heard of the bad reputation of the Soma clan. When he looked at Su Yi, unsurprisingly, he revealed the doubt of, is it really okay to let the Soma clan work as store clerks? Don't worry, Lily is a good child. Su Yi patted Lily on the head and assured her. And she is also very hardworking and can help a lot. With Lily looking after the store, some basic goods, such as weak potions, torches and arrow doctors, can be restocked directly. In addition, Su Yi gave her some synthesis permissions, and she can also make props such as flaming arrows. Although in this case, someone else will need to be found to take care of the herb garden in Terraria. However, Su Yi still has enough manpower now, so at worst, Sire Miyamoto Rei can take this position. Lily will work hard. Although she was somewhat reluctant to return to Terraria, Lily still mustered up her courage and accepted Su Yi's order. It's just that her colleague is a real god, which makes her feel a little pressured. Relax, Lady Hestia is not that kind of strict god. Suyi saw that she was a little reserved and comforted her. Lady Hestia, please help her get familiar with the working environment in the store. Although Lily helped on the first day of opening, the number of customers at that time was not as high as it is now. No problem, Hestia said confidently. As a senior in the store, I will teach her well. By the way, do you have any extra work clothes? That is not the case. Suyi glanced at the clothes Hestia was wearing. He bought this for free from a high-end specialty store in the city, so naturally he didn't have a second one. The main colors of this dress are blue and white, which is very suitable for Hestia. Moreover, the style is more conservative, and it won't expose too much skin like the original dress, while still ensuring beauty. After keeping the matter of work clothes in mind, Suyi started to busy himself with the work at hand. He planned to add a few new items to the store while improving his basic ability values. Anyway, with the Terra craftsman skill, Suyi only needs to make new equipment to easily improve its attributes. The materials dropped after defeating the Desert Scourge last time should be enough to make a set of armor. Suyi looked through the inventory and placed all the scattered materials on the table. Every 2 pearl fragments, corals, starfish, and shells can be made into ocean debris in a furnace. After using up all the basic materials on hand, Suyi harvested 20 inches ocean debris. To make a complete set of Victory Tide armor, 12 pieces are required. If you want to make Victory Tide armor for all professions, a total of 24 pieces are needed. However, as a low-level armor set, the bonuses of Victory Tide armor for different professions are not much different. Moreover, in terms of defense and suit effects, it is not as good as the jungle armor that Suyi is using. Suyi only planned to make a set of armor for the warrior profession and put it in the store window as a decoration. After careful consideration, Suyi finally made a pickaxe and a magic book out of the remaining 8 ocean residues. Great Bay Pickaxe Green has 55% pickaxe power, can mine magic ore, crimson ore, meteorite, sea prism and prism fragments. Coral Mud Green casts the Coral Spike spell, causing 8 points of magic damage, and each casting consumes 7 points of magic power. The Big Bay Pickaxe is the tool that Suyi intends to use for himself. The pickaxe in Terraria can mine different ore materials depending on the pickaxe power. If the pickaxe power is too low, you will not be able to mine even high-level minerals. For now, the Great Bay Pickaxe with 55% pickaxe power is the best mining pickaxe Suyi can use. Then you need to defeat a specific boss and use the boss's materials to make a more advanced pickaxe. Once we get rid of the World Devourer, I can jump directly to Hellstone materials. Then go back and make the equipment that was skipped to improve the ability value. While thinking about the next course of action in his mind, Suyi put the extra materials into the inventory. Coral Mud, the name sounds a bit strange, but it is actually a magic book. In Orario, magic books are generally rare items that may allow you to learn the spells in the book after reading it. But the spellbook of Terraria is similar to the magic sword, both are of the same martial type. As long as you consume magic power, you can release the magic in the spellbook without any qualifications. If we only look at the combat effect, Coral Mud is not as good as Suyi's super thermal ion cannon. However, this magic book has 2 attack forms. One is to shoot coral fragments like shotgun, causing damage. The other is to accumulate power and shoot out a large piece of coral fragments that can attach to the enemy and cause continuous damage. After recycling the large coral fragments, you can directly restore 150 points of magic power. This is its important function. You know, a bottle of weak magic potion can only replenish 50 points of magic. In addition, after recycling coral fragments, you will gain a bonus state called Symbiosis with Coral. This state can increase the charging speed of the spellbook and cause a certain amount of additional damage. Even adventurers who know nothing about magic can become familiar with the use of this magic book. He can also play the role of a low-level mage apprentice and use magic in battle. If converted into magic, in the world of Dicuo, it is roughly equivalent to a spell with 2 fields. After you upgrade and gain the Stigma Alchemy skill, you can put it out there. Suyi thought for a moment and decided to temporarily seal the text magic book. Theoretically, as long as Suyi makes enough magic weapons, he can use as many kinds of magic as he wants. From the tiny Mars to the ultimate prism that can penetrate the world. This thing is still a bit too advanced for the Orario adventurers who can only master 3 magics at most. It should be about the same. After making a complete set of victory-tide armor, plus 10 war swords and 10 magic books, Suyi vaguely felt that his attributes could no longer be improved. It's like a water tank that is already full of water. Even if you pour more water into it, it will overflow. In order not to waste the subsequent Terra Craftsman effect. The next morning, Suyi found Hephaestus and prepared to upgrade his level. I was wondering how long you would wait. The goddess who was hammering the mold heard the sound of the door being pushed open, raised her head and smiled slightly. Is there no need to stay at level 1 anymore? Well, I feel like I've reached my limit. Suyi nodded and said in a firm tone. Goddess, please update my ability values. For me and upgrade my level. Develop ability, same as before, choose, Stigma Alchemy. Seeing that he had made up his mind, Hephaestus' eyes seemed to be burned red by flames, showing gentle lines. Good. Without any extra words, Suyi took off his shirt and lay on the table as usual. The goddess dripped the divine blood on his back while sighing. You've also reached level 2. Normally, I would have said this. But your upgrade speed is too fast. My memory is still stuck at the time when you just received God's grace. Really? But I have had many, rich adventures. After saying this, Suyi noticed that the goddess' hand stopped. Goddess, are you not worried about what happened before? No. Hephaestus patted Suyi's back playfully. The upgrade has been completed. What? You didn't expect that there would be a burst of light, hoping that even Orario could see it, did you? Although I have heard that the body will not change when upgrading. But just now Suyi really felt like nothing had happened. At worst, at least there will be a pop-up message saying, "Congratulations on your upgrade," in front of you. Upgrading will not cause any changes to your body structure, so don't expect it. Hephaestus threw Suyi's clothes over and explained. But your ability value has indeed been sublimated, and your instrument has been upgraded to a higher level. When you fight your previous enemies again, you will definitely find some changes. The goddess said this with a happy smile, and then handed the recording paper filled with common language to Suyi. Only gods can decipher the word of God, so it needs to be translated into common language, and written on paper so that adventurers can see the changes in their ability values. At this time, Suyi's ability value is very different from before. Suyi. Level. LV2. Basic abilities. Strength I, Endurance 0 I, Dexterity 0 I, Magic 0 I. Development ability, Stigma Alchemy. Skill, Terra Craftsman. After upgrading, the previous ability values will be cleared and reset to 0. This was something Suyi had known for a long time, so he was not surprised, but turned his attention to the development capabilities he possessed. Alchemy of the Holy Mark, I. Plus increase the understanding and manipulation of elements in the microscopic world. Plus the effect of this ability is greatly enhanced when absorbing holy milk. Plus unlock the decomposition ability. If you still had doubts before. When Suyi saw the words, holy milk, he could finally confirm that this Stigma Alchemy was the Stigma Alchemy in his memory. The only problem is, by the way, what does holy milk mean? Hephaestus naturally also saw the description of Suyi's ability value and was quite curious. Who knows? Suyi coughed lightly and changed the subject. Isn't the goddess going to attend the Feast of the Gods today? It's almost time now. Ah, I would have forgotten if you hadn't told me. Hearing Suyi's reminder, Hephaestus suddenly reacted and hurriedly packed up her things. Today is the Assembly of the Gods, also known as the Banquet of the Gods, which is held every 3 months. On this day, the gods of Orario will gather together and drink and chat happily in a sumptuous banquet. To sum it up in Hephaestus' words, it was a meeting where a group of gods who had nothing to do and were bored got together to have fun. 0. As for the source of fun, it is to determine the titles of the clan members who level up during this period. Starting from LV2, clan members will be eligible to be granted titles by the gods. Isa's title of Sword Princess was also given by the gods. By the way, only gods with LV2 family members will be allowed to attend the banquet. A parasite goddess like Hestia who has no family can only be turned away. From another perspective, the gods' followers are like hostages. While having fun with the families of other gods, one must also put one's own children in front of the gods. Please, goddess. Suyi made a serious request to Hephaestus. Please make sure to get me a decent title, at least not something like Pink Cute Bunny. Ahahaha. I'll try my best. Hephaestus could only respond to Suyi's expectations with a somewhat pale and weak smile. Judging from the fact that Suyi has risen to LV2 in just half a month, those gods who love to watch the fun will definitely cause trouble at the banquet. But goddess, are you planning to wear this to the party? Seeing that Hephaestus was about to go out, Suyi looked at the goddess in a thin top and black trousers with a subtle look. Not to mention it's not even a dress, this outfit looks more like men's clothing. What's wrong with this outfit? Hephaestus glanced at her clothes and didn't feel anything was wrong. She has always been so casual, and she wasn't attending any serious meeting anyway. I think you need to shock those gods. That way they won't fool you with some weird title. Since his own reputation was at stake, Suyi risked his life and began to give advice on how to equip his goddess. I happen to have a dress here. My goddess, you can try it on, it will definitely be very good. Is that so? Perhaps it was the first time she saw Suyi so serious. Hephaestus was stunned for a moment and reached out to take the clothes he handed over. This outfit is exactly the wedding dress that Suyi took from the zombie bride. Let's put aside the question of whether or not the concept of wedding dress exists in this world. The outfit itself is a very gorgeous dress. Is this not suitable for me? Hephaestus hesitated a little. She could feel that the suit was very well made. But she was used to being casual and was not used to such formal dresses. Goddess, you must have confidence in yourself. After putting it on, you will be the most dazzling star today. Suyi said with regret. The only pity is that I can't see the goddess put on her clothes. The forging goddess, who is accompanied by furnaces and hammers all day long, suddenly changed into a gorgeous dress. This is exactly the contrast she wanted. Seeing Suyi's lost look, Hephaestus looked down at the white wedding dress in her hand and suddenly said, "We still have some time, how about I try it on first and let you see the effect." Chapter 49 Extra Expanded World, The Taste of Holy Milk. Hephaestus, wedding dress, it's amazing. After the goddess left, Suyi was still savoring the stunning glimpse he had just had. The glittering, flame-like long hair, paired with the white dress, intertwined with the pure divinity, achieves a beauty that is unattainable by mortals. I'm afraid that even the gods who have lived for millions or tens of millions of years have never seen Hephaestus like this. Soon, she will come to the banquet of the gods in this manner, like a warrior stepping onto the battlefield. Those fun gods had better be smart and at least give me a normal title that won't make me look out of place in the cutscenes. After sending Hephaestus away, Suyi also returned to Terraria to test his strength after the upgrade. In order to compare the state before the upgrade, he deliberately summoned the Desert Scourge again to challenge it. Boom! When the body of the Desert Scourge fell into the desert, splashing up dust, Suyi also completed the timing. Total time, 15 minutes and 32 seconds. It's half an hour faster than last time. It's true that upgrading can't produce no improvement at all. Based on Suyi's own experience, he felt that when fighting with the boss, both his perception and movements were sharper and more flexible. And there have been some small changes in mentality. Previously, I fought with the mentality of challenging a strong enemy. Now it's like greeting an old friend, a little harder, but not much. Suyi, 807, casually opened the treasure bag of the Desert Scourge and harvested a bunch of miscellaneous materials. These corals, starfish and other things can be used to make a set of victory-tide armor or other props. However, the weapon fired this time was different from the last time. It was a throwing javelin. Desert Disaster Green causes 12 points of rogue damage. Stealth attack will throw out 3 javelins that drill into the ground at the same time. It's this weapon. Looking at the weapon he had just taken out of the inventory, Suyi showed a surprised expression. The javelin is about 1 meter long, and the top is shaped like the giant jaws of a desert plague. Its weapon type is very special, and it is the exclusive weapon for the new profession, Thief, added to the Disaster module. This is a profession that uses throwing weapons as the main means of attack. In Terraria, some professions have fierce offensive in the early stage, while others excel in the late stage. The Thief is an extremely powerful profession in the later stages, provided that you have collected a full set of professional accessories, armor and other equipment. However, even if we put aside the profession, Desert Scourge is also a very useful weapon. After being thrown, it will automatically burrow into the ground and automatically target nearby enemies to attack. In a sense, it can replace the bow and arrow and become a means of long-range attack in the early stage. Stealth attack is a characteristic of the Thief profession. When the stealth value reaches the maximum, the stealth attack can be triggered, triggering the weapon's special effects. Suyi tried to throw the weapon in his hand, only to see the desert disaster turn in midair and quickly sink into the sand. In the blink of an eye, it emerged from the ground and pierced a vulture. After completing the attack, a javelin suddenly appeared in Suyi's empty hand, which was the desert formation. So it came back this way. Suyi casually killed the awakened vulture, seeming to be thinking about something. But as expected, the lurking attack didn't trigger. It seems that I must wear the armor of the thief profession. Before the difficult mode, Suyi had no intention of changing his profession. The superthermal ion cannon is so useful, we should use it more often. It's okay to wait until its strong period is over before considering changing jobs. By the way, after the upgrade, the system seemed to pop up a prompt. Because he was busy admiring the goddess figure, Suyi almost forgot about it. Fortunately, the system will not run away, and it is still not too late now. System prompt: congratulations. Your level has been raised to LV2. As a reward, the system unlocks an additional world expansion slot. Oh, there are actually upgrade rewards. This system is very considerate. After seeing the news, Suyi was overjoyed. It just so happens that the development of the Apocalypse world is almost complete. The next world slot is unlocked after defeating Skeletron. During this time, he was also thinking about whether he should explore the dungeon as a transition. Unexpectedly, the system gave him a great gift. It would be better to be able to travel to another world. Because every world you visit through the system has its own unique features. For example, the Terraria world allowed Suyi to unlock several very useful abilities. The world of Apocalypse is slightly worse, with only the feature of periodically triggering the blood moon. I don't know what surprises the new world will bring. After confirming that he had traveled to an existing world, a piece of information unexpectedly appeared in front of Suyi's eyes. Exploring the unknown world, this process will last at least 12 hours. Sure enough, I have to wait 12 hours this time too. Looking at the countdown hanging in his field of vision, Suyi shrugged. During this period of time, it was just right to test the ability he had been dreaming about, Stigma Alchemy. Because it is a rare ability that has never been seen before, neither the goddess nor Miss Aina can provide help. Suyi simply tried it on his own and gradually explored the application of his development abilities. And this ability, to be honest, he doesn't want anyone to know about it. Relying on the memories of the Stigma Alchemist, Suyi finally had a preliminary understanding of how to use the development abilities he had acquired. First, decompose it. Suyi casually took out a wooden sword and gently brushed the sword with his hand. Then the wooden sword suddenly disintegrated and broke into pieces of wood. These woods are the materials used to make this wooden sword. Suyi counted them and found that there were fewer than when they were made, but not by much. Although the finished product can be broken down into raw materials, it will cause losses. Considering that this is an irreversible process, this loss is within an acceptable range. And decomposition seems to bring some knowledge as well. Suyi closed his eyes and took in the information that flooded into his mind. When performing the decomposition process, it was as if he had made the wooden sword again with his own hands. Every polishing detail and production technique seems to be vivid in my mind. However, this was clearly a weapon he made directly out of wood. Increase the understanding and manipulation of elements in the microscopic world. So that's what you mean. Suyi opened his eyes and savored it carefully. The craftsmanship of the wooden sword is nothing special, but it's a start. After testing the decomposition, there is only one place left that needs to be tested. So we still have to look for the holy milk. Looking at the ability description on the record paper, Suyi's expression was a little complicated. 014603124 Filu 172,183,201. I have to try it anyway. The first goal is the first moment you realize you need to obtain the holy milk. The person that came to Suyi's mind was undoubtedly Shizuka Marikawa. There is no way, because she has the broadest mind among all the contractors. Even the lowly goddess Hestia, who is famous for her baby face and big breasts, cannot compare to her. After all, the latter is petite and suffers from her body shape. Apocalypse World. You need my. Hearing Suyi's request, Juchuan Shizuka rubbed her cheek with her fingers in embarrassment. But I haven't given birth to a child yet, so I can't produce breast milk. Nan Lixiong on the side laughed secretly and ruthlessly exposed her best friend's past. Forget about the kids. This guy doesn't even have a boyfriend. He's already old. You don't have any either. Why do you always blame me? It's not easy for me to find a man in my profession. Use your brain and think about it. Looking at the group of girlfriends who were teasing each other, Suyi coughed lightly and said awkwardly. It's okay. Even a virgin can produce holy milk. In fact, the effect will be better. Because holy milk is not breast milk in the true sense, but the embodiment of life energy with sacred meaning. According to doctrine, the Virgin Mary gave birth to Jesus as a virgin and raised him. This may be the origin of the symbolic meaning given to the term holy milk. BB. Seeing Suyi said this, Juchuan Shizuka tilted her head. Master, do you want to try it? Then I'll be welcome. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to say, I'm ready to eat, or, thank you for the treat. When he came to his senses, he saw Nan Lixiang looking at him and Juchuan Jingchun with a complicated look. Wow, it actually exists. Stop talking. This joke successfully helped Suyi get out of the embarrassment. Then he discovered that he had an additional buff state. Holy milk filling Marikawa Shizuka improves the effect of the stigma alchemy ability and increases the healing effect obtained by oneself by 50%. When making healing items, there is a 33% chance of obtaining double the product. The working time is 30 minutes. The benefits provided by holy milk are considerable. The item, self-obtained healing effect plus 50%, alone is already amazing. The output of the double healing items later is also good, and will come in handy when making high-level healing potions. Not only that, when in the state of holy milk filling, Suyi felt that his mind was much clearer. The knowledge just acquired is being digested and absorbed at a very fast speed, as if the brain's operating speed has also increased a lot. The whole person seemed to be refreshed and felt unable to stop. After the 30 minutes have passed, will we be able to return to our normal state? Suyi looked at Marukawa Shizuka with some lingering feelings. The latter subconsciously protected her chest with both hands and hesitated. Are you still coming? No. Suyi smiled awkwardly and gave up the idea of having a few more bites. I just want to ask, after producing the holy milk, do you feel anything? Feeling. No matter how slow-witted Marikawa Shizuka was, she blushed and gave an evasive answer when faced with such a question. Yes, of course there is. After all, it is a normal physiological phenomenon. I'm asking if you feel weak. Suyi glanced at Nan Lixiang who had been giggling since a while ago. 2.0 What are you laughing at? You have to go to the table later. After all, judging from the name suffix behind the gain, the effects of the holy milk vary from woman to woman. Since Shizuka Marikawa's effect is related to treatment, then Minami Rika is most likely related to shooting and long-range damage. This is just Suyi's guess. If he really wants to find out the truth, naturally, practice is the only way to gain true knowledge. My physical condition, so that's what you're asking about. The blonde school doctor breathed a sigh of relief, felt it carefully, and soon frowned. I do feel a little tired, as if I had worked overtime for several hours in a row. But it's not serious. I should be able to recover after sleeping for a while. As a medical worker, Shizuka Marikawa is very clear about her physical condition. There should be no problem with her judgment. Really? That's good. Quote. Suyi nodded, and a huge stone was put down in his heart. But I was secretly thinking in my heart, since the holy milk is so important, it seems that I will have to contract more candidates for the goddess of birth in the future. The goddess of birth, another name for the provider of holy milk. For Suyi, she is a contractor with the qualifications of goddess of life. Even without contract skills, it is equally important. As for a character with no contract skills but potential, Suyi just thought of a person. Chapter 50 Goddess. It's over, it's all over. In the bed owner's city, in a dojo with a sign that reads, Poison Island. A lone figure stood there, and beside her, the corpses of zombies were scattered on the ground. It looks like the battle on your side is over, too. Suyi walked out from the other side of the corridor and looked at Busujima Seiko. This way, your dojo will be cleaned up. Would you like to move in here? Busujima Seiko shook her head slightly and answered without hesitation. This place is just an empty shell for me. There is no need to come back. But, I'm glad that the master can come with me to clean up. I still have some time. Suyi shrugged. He couldn't say that he was bored because he had to wait for the exploration of the new world to end. Besides, I can also try out the effect of the power I gained from you. Hearing this, Busujima Seiko smiled lightly and asked without hesitation. So, are you satisfied with the effect of my holy milk? More than satisfied, Suyi's eyes almost popped out when he saw the buff on his body. Holy breast filling Bukujima Seiko improves the effect of the stigma alchemy ability. It makes the melee attack of the user deal 1.5 times the damage, unable to crit, lasts for 30 minutes. A simple 24-bit brutal 50% damage bonus is more satisfying than any other effect. Although it is impossible to critically hit, there is no need to consider this negative effect if there is no stacking of critical hit rate. In the battle just now, even with a wooden sword, Suyi could easily chop the zombies into several pieces like cutting melons and vegetables. It seems I will have to trouble you in the future. With pleasure. Afterwards, Suyi tested the effects of Miyamoto Rei and Takagi Saya's holy milk. After comparison, he came to several conclusions. First of all, although the effects of each type of holy milk are different, they are all considered a benefit. At the same time, it can only maintain a state of fullness of holy milk. Secondly, there are different levels of holy milk. The high-quality effects are like those of Marikawa Shizuka and Busujima Seiko, which have additional bonuses to their own abilities. Ordinary holy milk only has the ability to enhance the effect of stigma alchemy. The cases of Rei Miyamoto and Saya fall into this category. As for the holy milk of even worse quality, Suyi has never come into contact with it. Of course, there is another situation. That is, the development level is not enough to produce holy. This is commonly known as flat breasts. After returning to Orario, Suyi finally couldn't help but extend his evil claws towards Lily. But he found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make Lily achieve the same effect as Shizuka Marikawa. Ultimately, the only reason can be attributed to the dwarf race's physical disadvantage. However, after being tormented by Suyi, Lily seemed very happy and did not show any resistance. It would be better to say that she would be happier if Suyi could take the initiative to do something for her. I wonder what stage the Feast of the Gods has reached now. Noticing that the sunlight was gradually dimming, Suyi looked towards the sky outside the Tower of Babel. Hope everything goes well today. The venue for the Banquet of the Gods is the 30th floor of the Tower of Babel. In order to match the aura of the gods, all the compartments on this floor were connected, and thick marble columns were lined up to support the ceiling. In the spacious space, there was only a huge round table and no other decorations. The walls in the distance are all huge and clear glass, almost as if they are surrounded by the sky. Every 3 months, more than 30 clan gods would sit down at the round table, laughing and playing. Different from the clansman's imagination of gods, the gods in real life are sometimes not much different from children. Especially when giving titles to newly promoted family members, quarrels often break out. Finally decided, the adventurer Seti Selti will be named Holy Dragon Knight of Dawn. No. This is so embarrassing. After hearing that a child of his own family was given such a ridiculous title, a main god couldn't help but burst into tears. Other gods with naughty personalities took this opportunity to roll on the ground laughing and enjoyed themselves. Okay, next, is it the child of Hephaestus? Saw the name, Hephaestus, appear on the list. Several gods who had exaggerated smiles on their faces restrained their attitudes to show respect. As one of the largest families in Orario, the Hephaestus family is not as easy to bully as some smaller families. Of course, this is also related to the fact that Hestus is so dazzling and amazing today. It can be seen that she is very determined today. A god whispered to the god next to him. If you tease her, you might get retaliated against severely. Even Hephaestus is dressing up seriously, how scary. Be careful that she doesn't allow the blacksmith in the clan to repair your child's equipment. Forget it, be serious. However, when these gods were about to seriously name it, they were shocked by the information in their hands. Bang! The host of this meeting, the short-haired goddess Loki, stood up quietly from her seat. Before deciding on the title, let me explain it first. Hephaestus. She opened her slender eyes and stared at the forging goddess in gorgeous dress like a fox. It only took half a month to sublimate art benefit. How on earth is this going on? Even my ISIS first upgrade took a whole year. And this kid only took half a month. You are talking nonsense. The eyes of the other gods also fell on Hephaestus. 8 years ago, the little girl, who was only 8 years old at the time, reached level 2 in just 1 year. This was still fresh in their memory. At that time, not only Orario, but the whole world was shocked by this great achievement. God's grace does not directly grant powerful power, it is merely an opportunity. It can discover possibilities that clan members would never have the chance to discover in their lifetime, and materialize them into clear ability values. Basic abilities, development abilities, skills, magic. These are possibilities hidden within the person concerned, or secrets. It will be transformed and sublimated through the various processes accumulated along the way, great achievements. Just like seeds buried in the soil, they will bloom into different flowers depending on the environment. Therefore, what the gods bestow upon mortals is not divine power, but a small push that has a promoting effect. Quote. Facing the dazzling gazes of her colleagues, Hephaestus took a deep breath and spoke directly. I don't know either, it's no use asking me. Huh. Not getting the answer he wanted, Loki immediately jumped onto the table and questioned loudly without caring about his image. You are not using the power of God, are you? Please, how can I do this? Hephaestus sneered at 637's unreasonable question. Isn't it a fact recognized by everyone that the children in the lower world have potential that even we don't know about? Quote. Hephaestus's rebuttal left Loki speechless. Although they hold high positions as gods and possess great power. But there was also a time when heroes emerged among the mortals in the underworld. Before the gods came, they could reach the strength of around LV4 or LV5 with their own strength and protect their homes from monsters. Now that thousands of years have passed, it seems not impossible for another hero to appear. Thinking of this, Loki suddenly revealed a cunning smile. Are you saying that this boy named Zhi Yi is a rare talent that only appears once in 1,000 years? Wait, I didn't say that. Hephaestus's face changed, realizing what this guy was going to do. She wanted to push Zhi Yi into the pit of praise and killing. Well, we have to give him a rather impressive title then. Loki sat back in his seat with a playful look and suggested. Otherwise, it would be unworthy of his amazing talent. What do you think? The atmosphere of serious discussion just now, under Loki's encouragement, gradually moved towards an uncontrollable abyss. Finally, there was a thunderous cheer from the table. Zhi Yi's title was just confirmed. It's over, it's all over. Seeing this shocking scene, Hephaestus felt helpless. Zhi Yi, you must hold on. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Chapter 51, The Name of the Hero, The Shadow King. The atmosphere in the Adventurers Guild was somewhat tense. Although it has not reached the point where everyone is on edge, it is enough to make people nervous. Have monsters invaded Terraria? I don't think so. Hearing her colleague's whispered question, Aina shook her head slightly. This is not their workplace, but a second office with several park photos. There is a low and peaceful atmosphere in the spacious hall. Aina, are you listening? And, hearing the person in front of her calling her, Aina suddenly came to her senses and stood up quickly. Sorry, team leader. In front of her, a male orc sat on a chair, holding the document submitted by Aina in one hand and looking at her sternly. I repeat, this experience has no reference value for other LV1 adventurers. Never mind. The team leader sighed and put the file down. Although I asked you to interview the newcomer who reached LV2 the fastest in history, no one would believe this kind of information if it were released. That's true. Aina thought in her heart with agreement. With the unique skill called Terra Craftsman, you only need to keep making equipment to improve your basic abilities and achievements. This upgrade method is tailor-made for the Hephaestus family. For other non-craftsman faction families, it is simply cheating. If it were made public, it would probably cause an uproar. I'll find a reason to fool the people above me about this matter, and let it go like this. I'm so sorry. Aina bowed to her boss with gratitude and left the office. As soon as I walked out, the human colleague with pink hair approached me and said with a smile. That's what I said, even though the team leader doesn't look that good, he still takes good care of us. Misha, do you dare to say such things to his face? That's absolutely impossible. The two guild members who had a lot more work to do because of Zhi Yi's upgrade did not return to the hall immediately, but went to the tea room to take a break. Anyway, the colleague who is replacing me won't leave for a while, so I can take a good rest. The magic stone device is really convenient. Misha came over with 2 cups of hot black tea and said with emotion. Just press the button and brewed hot tea will flow out. It is said that this device was created by a god. It seemed to be called an electric water heater at first. That's weird. It's obviously for making tea, so why is it called a water heater? And what does the word, electricity, mean? Quote. Agina. Are you listening to me? It was not until she saw the half-elf's eyes were a little out of focus that Misha realized she had been talking to herself. Judging from the number of times she was distracted, Agina, who is usually known for her rigor and seriousness, seemed a little out of shape today. Sorry, I was distracted. Aina came back to her senses, took a sip of the black tea in her cup, and looked towards the office outside. Many guild staff members looked as absent-minded or restless as she did. The person sitting on the chair kept glancing at the clock, completely lacking the usual atmosphere of furious writing. It's already this time, the feast of the gods should be over, right? Aina couldn't help but ask. I guess so. Misha thought about it and was a little unsure. Usually by this time, the meeting results should have been delivered. According to tradition, this scene is seen every time the banquet of the gods ends. At this moment, the guild members are concerned about nothing else but the satisfaction of the new adventurers. The titles bestowed by the gods always shocked the mortals in the lower world, sparked heated discussions, and even became a frenzy. The Adventurers Guild is in a key position to obtain first-hand information, so many people are eagerly waiting for it. Are you curious too, Aina? You want to know what kind of title will appear in this opportunity? Quote. The image of a certain young man subconsciously emerged in Aina's mind. Of course I will. After all, it's the adventurer I'm responsible for who's upgraded. The two were chatting excitedly when suddenly there was an abrupt click sound coming from the door. The door of the guild was pushed open forcefully from the outside, causing everyone in the room to turn their heads at the same time. A breathless clerk ran in with a stack of documents. Here it comes. The result of the Feast of the Gods. Ooh, it's finally here. Let's take a look. Like lightning, the employees rushed over, dropping their work. Several pieces of parchment with titles written on them were passed to different people in a blink of an eye. Soon, comments began to be heard from the guild's staff area. Hey, look at this title. Oh, so strong, you are worthy of being God. Yeah, we can't think of such a novel title. For example, this, Dawn's Holy Dragon Knight, is similar to the Black Flame User from last time. What a touching nickname. For some reason, I get goosebumps. The atmosphere at the guild headquarters began to heat up, centered around the male staff. Agina and Misha, who were a step slower, could only squeeze in from the outside of the crowd little by little. I wonder what title the gods will give Suyi. Aina speculated as she thought about the next time she met Suyi. Hopefully it's not too fancy a name. If I were to be given a title like Pretty Boy, I'd probably be embarrassed to look up in front of other adventurers, right? Although it is a true description, it lacks some seriousness compared to titles that sound high-sounding, such as Sword Princess and Nine Demon Princess. If it is too flashy, it will cause trouble for new players who are only LV2. It is better to have a simpler and less eye-catching name. Agina, I got it, come and see. At this moment, Misha suddenly jumped up happily not far away, holding a document in his hand raised high. Aina was delighted and quickly ran through the crowd and began to read the book quickly. A row of adventurers, names and their titles were written on several pieces of parchment. When she reached the last page, she finally found the name she had been thinking about at the very bottom. Quote. Both Misha and Aina widened their eyes in surprise. Isn't this title a little too exaggerated? The human girl at the side gave her comment with some hesitation. This time, Agina did not refute her. Even she felt that this title should appear on high-level adventurers above LV5 or even LV6. After all, not everyone is worthy of the title of hero. Suyi, LV1. LV2, belongs to Hephaestus family. Title: Heroic Craftsman. I'm sorry, I tried my best. The forging goddess who had returned from the divine banquet had changed back into her usual clothes. She had a bit of embarrassment on her face and kept complaining about the unreliable gods. Loki is deliberately trying to trip me up. He must be trying to cause trouble because his child's grades have been surpassed by yours. Really, I think this title is okay. Suyi didn't feel anything. In fact, in his opinion, this title was much better than those in human names. I wish it were just as you think. Seeing that he looked as if nothing had happened, Hephaestus sighed and reminded him. Don't underestimate the adventurers, yearning for a hero. This is a great title that can only be obtained by a legendary strong man who has accomplished a feat that even the gods would be impressed by. After being forced to bear this title, you will soon be in a lot of trouble. DB. Ethnicity. Yi really didn't expect this. Compared with the worst-case scenario he expected, this situation seemed to be another extreme. For example, all the adventurers in Terraria will rush to your shop, wanting to see the forging skills of the hero. If you produce even a half-defective piece of work, you will be mercilessly attacked and ridiculed. By then, this title will only become a burden to you. Yi was stunned when he heard this. Doesn't this sound like a good thing? Carefully selected by the gods, please look for the adventurer's home. This is much better than any TV commercial. Don't worry, goddess, I'm fine. Yi assured confidently. I will use my strength to prove that I am worthy of the title that goddess has worked so hard to obtain. Seeing that Yi was not overwhelmed by the pressure, he comforted himself instead. Hephaestus couldn't help but hug him and stroke his head with relief. If you can't hold on any longer, tell me and I'll have my clan members help you through this period. Yi said nothing, just buried his face. I wonder what effect the goddess's holy milk will have. Of course, this idea was only in his mind. Even if he had 10,000 courages, he wouldn't dare to say it himself. After saying goodbye to Hephaestus, Yi went to his own shop. Because the title has just been announced and has not yet been spread through the guild. So it's relatively quiet here for now. But Yi could already imagine it. After his name, Hero Craftsman, spread throughout Terraria. I'm afraid there will be a constant stream of adventurers visiting every day. A foolish play of the gods. Thinking of this, Yi couldn't help but snorted contemptuously. Since you want to see my fun, then I'd like to thank you all for the free publicity. He not only wanted to make full use of this sudden surge of popularity, but also to make his title worthy of its name. Originally, Yi was a little hesitant because there were so many good things in Terraria. Any one of them could cause a stir in Terraria. Even if he was born into the Hephaestus family, he couldn't explain it. But it's different now. He is a hero craftsman, certified by the gods themselves. Since he's a hero, it's normal for him to pull out a superthermal ion cannon, right? Having the entire Terraria world as a backing is Yi's greatest confidence and trump card. After greeting Hestia and Lily, Yi didn't waste too much time and went straight back to the studio on the second floor. A lot of things really happened today. First, he upgraded and gained the Stigma Alchemy skill. Then he went to test his upgraded strength and the effect of holy milk. Then there is the title I just heard, and the subsequent response plan. There are so many things going on in the main world that Yi has almost no time to explore other worlds. Fortunately, I finally have some free time now. 12 hours, that's about all that needs to be done. Yi remembered that there was a strange world that was still being explored. Immediately call out the system panel to check the progress. As luck would have it, there was only 1 minute left when I opened the panel. In that case, let's wait until the moment of revelation. Yi waited quietly with anticipation in his heart. I hope this is a world suitable for obtaining the holy milk. At least there are many characters suitable for the contract. It would be acceptable if I could gain special abilities. Wait, what the hell is a black bullet? The moment the countdown reached 0, the window in front of Yi looked brand new. A traversable world has been found. Crossing location, Dongjing District, Tiantong Civilian Security Company. This world is affected by the power of disaster, and the jungle area is covered by the Terraria environment. There are countless Dongjings in the parallel world. But since the place of travel is at the Tiantong Civilian Security Company, Yi quickly determined the prototype of this world, Black Bullet World. In an instant, countless related memories emerged in his mind. This world is fine. With my current strength, it might be a bit difficult to deal with Stage 5. But Protogastrix below, Stage 4, should pose no threat. Just like last time, this time after the world information, additional system prompts also appeared. But this time it's a reminder about rewards. World Quest. Summon and kill a queen bee in the jungle of this world to unlock a special variant of the thief profession, Shadow King. Chapter 52. As expected of Miss Kasara, she is taking advantage of this. The newly unlocked world is a bit complicated. Yi took a few minutes to sort out his thoughts and digest the information he had obtained. In short, this world not only has Gastrula, but also has the jungle environment of Terraria. In addition, the system has assigned me a world mission, which requires me to challenge the Queen Bee in the Black Bullet world. After successfully killing him, you will unlock the special thief class called Shadow King. Queen Bee is one of the bosses in the Terraria world and is an exclusive boss of the jungle biome. Even if it is not killed, it will not affect the development of the world. However, some of the equipment and materials produced by the Queen Bee are very practical. It is also on Su Yi's challenge list, but it is ranked relatively low. According to his plan, he was supposed to find the location of the Queen Bee after defeating the World Devourer, and before challenging the Skeleton King. In Terraria's underground jungle, giant beehive structures filled with honey will spawn. This is a mini biome with unique environmental mechanics. And in every beehive, there is a larva sleeping in amber. As long as it is destroyed, the Queen Bee will be enraged and forced to show up to fight. Alternatively, you can create an item called Bee of Hate to actively summon the boss. But no matter which method you use, you need to find a beehive in the jungle. The underground jungle that Su Yi had explored before was only a small area in Terraria. If he were to explore alone, it would take him forever to find the place. And now, the jungle of the Black Bullet world is covered by the Terraria world. This means that, maybe there is a beehive in this world. This is an opportunity. There are opportunities, but there are also great risks. Because if you fail to challenge the boss in the Black Bullet world, you will not be resurrected. Although you can prepare in advance and avoid death at the critical moment. But it's still not as safe as in Terraria. It seems that we must be fully prepared before taking on the challenge. Su Yi glanced at the rewards for the world missions and felt very motivated. Shadow King, if he remembered correctly, this should be the profession of the protagonist in I Level Up Alone. The abilities of this profession are very simple and powerful. That is, the corpses of dead creatures can be extracted as shadows, which can be used to strengthen oneself or summoned to assist in battle. If I extract the corpse of a boss-level enemy into a shadow, doesn't this mean that I can summon the boss in Terraria to help me fight? Su Yi couldn't help but recall the scene of himself waving his hand and summoning the Flower of the Century and the Moon Lord sweeping away everything. Even the boss in the disaster might be able to turn into a shadow to fight for you. Forget it, there's no point in thinking about this now, let's kill the Queen Bee first. Su Yi suppressed the excitement in his heart and gradually calmed down. But in my heart, I am still full of fighting spirit. Lily is helping out in the store, so we won't be bringing her this time. The place where I crossed over was the Tiantong Civilian Security Company. After thinking for a moment, Su Yi decided to explore the way on his own first. After all, the Black Bullet world is not like the Bedmaster City. Although it is also facing a doomsday crisis, it at least maintains a certain order. Theoretically speaking, as long as you don't run into the restricted area outside the monolith, your life will not be in danger. The time flow rate of the target world is 1 with that of the main world. Question mark. Did you travel to the Black Bullet world? Finally, there is a world where time flows at the same speed as the main world. Su Yi was slightly surprised, but did not hesitate and disappeared directly into the studio. The next moment, his figure suddenly appeared in a simple office. The furnishings in the office are fairly complete, but judging by the signs of use, most of them are second-hand items that are quite old. Only the leather armchair behind the ebony desk was in good condition. It can be seen that the person sitting in this position must be very particular. So, this is the Tendo Civilian Security Company. Just when Su Yi was wondering, a black-haired girl in a sailor suit suddenly pushed the door open. The moment she saw Su Yi, she seemed to be alert and put her hands on her waist, but there was no weapon there. Then the girl seemed to come to her senses and took the initiative to speak to Su Yi. Are you the applicant who came to apply for the police position in our company today? Please take a seat. Would you like tea or water? Just give me some water. Su Yi replied thoughtfully, his identity seemed to be a job seeker. The girl in front of me should be the president of this police company, Tendo Kasara. Judging from her appearance, she is a very pretty girl. However, the slender eyes with upward corners appear sharp, like a knife blade. Excuse me, are there no other employees here? No. In response to Su Yi's question, Tian Tongmu answered more helplessly. At present, I am the only one who is the president. There were several applicants before, but in the end, no one agreed. As for why the deal was not reached, Su Yi knew it after seeing the contract handed over by Tendo Kimura. Excuse me, what does the phrase, pure commission system, written on the contract mean? That's easy to understand. The girl in the sailor uniform sitting in the armchair explained as a matter of course. There is no base salary, and your monthly salary is determined by how many commissions you can handle. The commission bonus will be split 50-50 with the company, and the rest will be your salary. Suyi concluded as if he had realized something. In other words, Miss Tiantong actually has no money to pay the employees, and wants to get something for nothing. This kind of contract is no different from tricking people into working for free. Faced with such doubts, Tendo Mugen first puffed up her cheeks in anger, but soon lost her temper. After all, she could not refute this fact. After all, running a company is harder than people imagine. As she spoke, the girl's stomach suddenly made an unacceptable, gurgling, sound. Keegan, who had remained calm in the face of such accusations just now, finally showed a bit of blush and embarrassment on her pretty face. In short, these are the only conditions I can offer. The interview is over, you can leave now. Are there any entry procedures required? Suyi had no intention of leaving and directly signed his name on the contract. Or do you mean you can start working as long as you sign the contract? The girl's eyes widened in surprise. She didn't even seem to hear the sound of her stomach. She stared blankly at her first employee. After a few seconds, she couldn't help but speak. 014603124 Filu 172,193,071. Are you stupid? How dare you sign such an indenture? I hope the guy who wrote this kind of indenture can reflect on himself. How dare you say such rude things about your boss's work? Be careful or I'll deduct your salary. Before that, let's first deal with the problem of your growling stomach, Mr. President. Quote. Tian Tongmu looked at Suyi with some reluctance. Honestly, what exactly are you up to? You are after my beauty, right? This time it was Suyi's turn who couldn't refute. His eyes subconsciously swept to the girl's chest. The slender figure further highlights the fullness of the adolescent body. Although it is not as good as the level of Marikawa Shizuka. But compared with his peers, his level of development is considered good. I really want to taste what Miss Kasara's holy milk tastes like. Hey, look, it's true. Noticing Suyi's fixed gaze, Tian Tongmu Zheng immediately protected his chest and took a defensive stance. I'm warning you, subordinates are not allowed to take advantage of their superiors. Let's get back to the point. Suyi coughed lightly and said seriously. In fact, I do have other intentions. The president's daughter snorted and muttered. Don't think that I will forget that you were staring at me just now just because you suddenly changed the subject. Tell me, what do you want from me? Or, do you want to use the identity of Ten Tong to do something? Tendo Kasara is the youngest daughter of the wealthy Tendo family, but she rebelled against the family a few years ago. His grandfather, Tendo Kikunosho, was the head of the Tendo family and also the assistant of Sheng Tianzi, the ruler of Tokyo district. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the person with the highest authority, second only to one person and above millions of people. As a result, he attracted many enemies, who secretly gathered strength to take revenge on him. After thinking about it, Tian Tongmu felt that this was the only reason that would make people willing to sign that kind of contract just to get close to him. But of course, she guessed wrong. I'm just trying to resolve an identity issue. Suyi said in a serious tone. This is indeed the problem he is facing now. He can wander around freely in the disorderly world of Bedmaster City. But here, if you don't have a fixed residence, you can only go to the peripheral areas to pick up garbage. If you wander around in the middle of the night, you might be taken away by the police and sent to the detention center. So they are refugees of unknown identity. Hearing Suyi say this, Tian Tongmu showed a look of realization, as if he had already figured out the other party's identity. That's understandable. After all, many police officers have unidentified illegal identities. As a profession that relies heavily on blood and knife, the police force is composed of a large number of talented people. There are veterans who have experienced several Gastrula wars, there are also mercenaries engaged in illegal business, and even cyborgs of the Mechanical Soldier Project. However, no matter what the previous identity was, as long as it is registered under the name of the police company, they will suddenly become officially recognized professionals. Is the president satisfied with this explanation? About 60 points. Tendo Mu gave a score that was just barely passing. I always feel like you're hiding more from me. But considering your good attitude, I'll take you to IISO's Tokyo headquarters tomorrow to register as a police officer. ISO, also known as International Originator Supervisory Organization. For Su Yi, who just entered the industry, this is not an unfamiliar term. It can be said that the police profession is completely managed and controlled by IISO. Similar to the status of the Adventurers Guild to adventurers. Once you register as a police officer, you will automatically enter the IP ranking system. In addition to basic supplies, additional merits, permissions and even military ranks will be granted based on IP rankings. Although it is an honorary title and has no actual power, it is also a symbol of status. The most important thing is that only by becoming a formal police officer can one be assigned his or her own starter from IISO. However, if I want to apply for citizenship, it is almost impossible to police. Generally, collective applications are made in the name of the company. Even a small company like the Tendo Civilian Security Company with only 2 people. It is also a formal company that has been officially registered and has police registration qualifications. Although the most valuable thing about this company may be its operating license. Then I'll leave it to Miss Tiantong. Su Yi glanced at the sky and suggested in a brisk tone. In that case, how about holding a welcoming party at the company tonight? Although, I'll pay for the ingredients. Quote. With Ms. Kasara's financial resources, she could probably only afford bean sprouts during the discount period. Real. The president wiped the saliva from the corner of her mouth in an unladylike manner and raised her hand and said. I want to eat steak. Wait, I'll make you a shopping list. Hey, eating and taking at the same time is too much. It's so hard to get a chance to improve our food, how can we let it go? In the end, Xie left the Tiantong Civilian Security Company with the purchase order that was dragged on the ground. I can only say, you are worthy of being Ms. Kasara. Su Yi folded the purchase order in his hand and put it into the inventory. He found a secluded corner and drank a bottle of potion. A magical scene then appeared, his body was like a drop of water melting into the water, disappearing into the air in an instant. Invisibility potion, makes you invisible and reduces the monster spawn rate for 3 minutes. To make a bottle of invisibility potion, you only need blinkroot and moonlight grass. After drinking it, you will become completely invisible for up to 3 minutes, and you can get unlimited refills. It is a must-have item for home travel and $0 shopping. Su Yi, who had just come to this world, definitely didn't have a penny on him. The cash that the bed owner looted in the city probably can't be used here. Going to a pawn shop is too troublesome and it is easy to be taken advantage of. Then there is only one way left, rob the rich and give to the poor. After leaving the Tiantong Civilian Security Company, Su Yi remained invisible all the way, looking for a suitable target. Ordinary people don't have much money, so it's definitely not the best option. If you want to look for it, look for a place that is obviously home to a wealthy family. Tiantong Mansion. Inadvertently, Su Yi saw a nameplate hanging in front of the gate of a large compound. The area of this courtyard can be described as vast. Even the Gaocheng family's manor seems dwarfed by it. In the Tokyo area, the living space has been compressed to the extreme by the protozomes. Perhaps only the Tendo family, who are at the pinnacle of power, are worthy of owning such a mansion. After thinking for less than a second, Su Yi made a decisive decision. Since we're here, why not go in and take a look around? Chapter 53 There is an evil thing watching you. Before sneaking into Tiantong's courtyard, Su Yi did not rush in rashly. Even if the invisibility potion can hide his figure, modern technology has too many early warning methods. After all, he didn't completely disappear from this world, he was just optically invisible. If there had been an alarm device such as a laser sensor, he would probably have returned empty-handed this time. So before slipping in, Su Yi got 2 bottles of potion first. Danger Sense Potion, allows you to see nearby danger sources, lasts for 10 minutes. Spelunking Potion, shows the location of treasures and ores, lasts 5 minutes. The former allows him to see whether there are patrolling guards or hidden alarms nearby. The latter will highlight valuable items within the field of view. Su Yi's requirements are not high, a few million in cash as living expenses is enough. He wouldn't mind if he could get something better. After everything was ready, Su Yi sneaked into the manor like a gust of wind. The potion's effect lasts for a limited time, and although he has a lot of stock, it's better to make a quick decision. There is indeed an ambush. As expected of a business owned by the Tiantong family, it actually has so many security facilities. In Su Yi's vision, the empty courtyard seemed deserted with only a few guards patrolling. There are hidden cameras and sensors everywhere, and even sentries watching in the dark. Suyi can walk over to facilities like surveillance cameras with ease. If you are not sure about the function of some instruments, just avoid them and nothing will go wrong. During this time, Suyi refilled his invisibility potion and finally made some valuable discoveries. This safe is full of cash and gold bars, not bad. Suyi looked through the solid shell of the safe and saw the valuables inside that were marked by the effects of the potion. Although he didn't have the key, for a blacksmith who mastered alchemy. No matter how sturdy a safe is, it is just a lump of metal. Break down. Suyi placed his hand on a corner of the safe, carefully feeling the material composition of the safe. Stigma alchemy can manipulate the most basic elements, iron, copper, gold, silver, etc. The more you know about a material and the more familiar you are with it, the stronger the alchemical effect will be. If you ask Shizuka Marikawa and others for a bite of holy milk filling before coming here, your level will be even higher. But even in normal state, disassembling a safe is not a problem. In about a minute, a hole was created in the safe that would not break even if it was hit by an explosion. Suyi reached in and threw whatever he touched directly into the inventory, which was very convenient. Hey, the texture of some of the metals is a bit strange. They don't look like precious metals like gold or silver. Just when Suyi was a little confused, a teasing voice suddenly came from behind him. Oh, I thought there was a problem with the security system at Tendo-sama's house, but I didn't expect it to be a little mouse. Suyi suddenly stopped moving and turned around quickly. At some point, his invisibility disappeared. Maybe it was because of this that the traces were discovered. The ones who came looking for the trail were not the guards seen in the courtyard, but a masked strange man wearing a red tuxedo and a top hat. The shadow of Leech. Suyi recognized the other person's identity at the first moment. It seems that at this time, he has been hanging out with Tendo Kikunosuke. Seeing Suyi remain silent, Zizi Yingyan put his hands behind his back and spoke in a master-like manner. Want to play a game of, catch me, little mouse? I can give you 1 minute to escape. No need. Suyi stretched his hand behind him, and the next moment, the brown-yellow Sahara double blade was already in his hand. It would be awkward to use Desert Scourge or Super Thermal Ion Cannon at this distance, so it would be better to go straight into hand-to-hand combat. Long. Seeing the young man in front of him taking out his weapon, Hiriko Yingyan was also very pleased and pulled out his own pistol from his waist. His weapons were 2 modified Beretta pistols, with bayonets and gas grooves added for close combat, allowing him to engage in both long and short combat. Just think of it as an extra service for Master Tendo, helping him clean up the rats in his house. As soon as the words fell, the 2 figures burst out at an astonishing speed and rushed forward. Ding ding ding, ding, ding. Sparks flew from the point where the weapons clashed, and there was a series of crisp sounds of metal clashes. A few seconds were enough for the 2 to find out each other's background. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. Yingyan the leech leapt forward and jumped backward, creating some distance between them. Although the mask on his face concealed his expression. However, from his tone full of surprise, it was not difficult to hear that he was extremely happy at the moment. I didn't expect to meet such a strong opponent here. It's really an unexpected gain. What's your name, young man? Super Thermal Ion Cannon. Suyi didn't bother to pay attention to him at all. He directly switched weapons and shot out 2-phase laser balls. Although Yingyan Zizi's melee ability is not bad, it is still much worse than that of GNG. He can definitely deal with it. What you need to be careful about is that as a mechanically modified soldier, Hiriko Yingyan has a lot of black technology. For example, repulsive field hypothetical device. Seeing the strange ball of light shot out by the young man, there was no time to dodge. Yingyan Zizi directly stretched out his white-gloved hand and pressed it on the barrier formed by the air. The phase laser ball exploded directly in the space only a few centimeters away from him, bursting out a cloud of hot ions. After the ion cloud that blocked the view dissipated, Suyi's figure was no longer there. This startled Zizi Yingyan, and he quickly swung his spear blade to chop behind him. However, the expected attack did not come, and he was fighting wits and courage with the air. Left. A doubtful muttering to himself came from under Hiriko Yingyan's mask. After a few seconds, it turned into a loud and increasingly debauched laugh. Interesting, I must find you, boy. With the help of the invisibility potion, Suyi successfully escaped from the Tiantong family's territory. Thinking back to the battle just now, he couldn't help but have a headache. That repulsion field is a bit troublesome, a light attack can't penetrate it at all. According to the original work, Hiriko Yingyan's repulsive field can at least withstand the impact of bullets. Not only that, he can also bounce all these bullets back. In close combat, I am confident that I can suppress my opponent, but I am afraid that he will not be honest. After all, Hiriko Yingyan's weapon, in addition to melee combat, also has a trigger for shooting. Since physics can't solve it, let's try magic next time. On the way back, Suyi simulated the situation over and over again in his mind. The laser mode of the superthermal ion cannon should be able to penetrate the defense of the repulsive field. After all, the repulsive field can only target attacks with mass, and lasers are obviously not among them. However, the next meeting will mean it will be at the venue of some important event. There are too many things to do, let's do them one by one. Rubbing his temples, Suyi took out a few stacks of cash he had just picked up from his inventory and walked into a crowded supermarket. An hour later, the long-lost aroma of food wafted through the office of the Tendo Civilian Security Company. The meat will be cooked very quickly, so let's have some cabbage, bean curd sheets, or something like that to serve as a base. Suyi said as he stirred the soup pot with serving chopsticks. Because both of them were too lazy to cook and there were no decent kitchen utensils here, they simply stewed the purchased ingredients in one pot, that is, hot pot. In fact, there was no need for Suyi to remind him, as Tiantong Mu Zheng was already working hard. At this time, the girl suddenly became introverted, not saying a word, just eating. It feels so good to be alive. After finishing most of the ingredients in the pot, Tian Tongmu finally had time to use his mouth to talk instead of swallowing food. What do you think? Well, I still have enough food to eat, so I don't have any feelings about it. Damn it, he actually lived such a rich life behind my back. We didn't know each other before today, did we, Miss Tendo? The girl seemed to hate her surname and even frowned when eating meat. Don't call me Tian Tong, it's better to call me Mu. No problem, Ms. Kasara. I always feel like you're teasing me. It must be your illusion. After eating and drinking, Mu Zheng leaned back in the recliner contentedly and asked lazily. It's really strange. Even though you just started working today, I feel like I've been with you for a long time. Yeah, Suyi glanced at the bottom of the pot where there was hardly a bean sprout left. No wonder you can so confidently let your subordinates bear the expenses of the welcome party. Didn't you suggest this yourself? Mu Zheng retorted, but his face suddenly froze, revealing a slightly distorted look of pain. Looks like it's time to go to dialysis. I'm sorry, the office is about to close. Come back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and I'll take you to IISO to register. Suyi glanced at the pale girl, didn't ask any more questions, just nodded. He actually knew why Tendo Boku was in this situation. When she was a child, Gastrula suddenly appeared in Tendo Keegan's home. Not only were her parents killed, but she was also seriously injured and lost the function of her kidneys. After betraying the Tiantong family, due to the loss of organs, she had to undergo frequent hemodialysis in order to survive. Therefore, even with her powerful swordsmanship, she was unable to sustain a long battle and could not participate as a combatant. Point 0. If she were in good health, she would be able to support the entire company's business by herself. Of course, in addition to transplanting an artificial kidney, there is a simpler and quicker solution to the missing organ. That is to sign a contract with Suyi and let Shizuka Marikawa receive treatment directly and recover on the spot. However, Suyi did not extend a contract invitation to her. Because at this time, Kasara needs such pain to remind herself that she lives for revenge against the Tendo family. After leaving the company, or getting off work, Suyi was too lazy to find a place to live in the Tokyo area and went straight back to Terraria. The world quest requires him to challenge the Queen Bee, so before that, he needs to upgrade his equipment significantly. With the equipment he has now, he might die without knowing how he died. At least we need to defeat the World Devourer and upgrade our technology to the point where we can make demonite equipment. It looks like we'll have to explore the corrupted lands in the next few days. While thinking, Suyi suddenly had a chilling premonition. The cold feeling is like a cold and sticky. The poisonous tongue spread up his spine, making his scalp tingle. You feel like there is something evil watching you. A line of faint blood-red text quietly emerged in the field of vision. Is this a sign of the awakening of the Eye of Cthulhu? Suyi reacted instantly, quickly left the hut at the birth point, and rushed towards the nearby combat platform. In Terraria, the appearance of this prompt message means that an evil boss, the Eye of Cthulhu, will descend at night. Use at least 5 life crystals, and the defense should be greater than 10 points. I'm satisfied. There are at least 4 NPCs, a merchant, an arms dealer, a demolition expert, and a nurse. Just right. No wonder the Eye of Cthulhu awakened tonight. Once the conditions for its arrival are met, there is a 33% chance of it spawning naturally every night. With a 1 in 3 chance, it wouldn't be surprising if it was triggered any night. However, once the Eye of Cthulhu has been defeated once, it will no longer spawn naturally. You need to use the boss summoning item to actively summon it. If you keep failing, there is still a chance that the Eye of Cthulhu will wake up at night. But, Suyi never thought about the situation where he would fail. Suyi, who has defeated the Desert Scourge and the Slime King, has sufficient strength and equipment. No longer the rookie who must die the first time he meets the boss. Bring it on. Looking at the huge eyeball monster that quietly emerged in the night, Suyi drank several bottles of boost potions one after another, raised the super thermal ion beam cannon, and was full of fighting spirit. Prepare to die again. Chapter 54, Accident Caused by Magic Crystal. The morning in Orario comes earlier than in other worlds. When Suyi, who had worked hard all night, stepped out of the studio yawning, he heard a bustling noise coming from outside. Master, you are finally back. Lily, who was waiting at the door, heard the sound of the door being pushed open behind her and immediately rushed forward in a hurry. What's going on outside? Suyi asked as he took the wet towel handed to him by Lily and wiped the blood off his body. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be so many guests so early in the morning. But in fact, Suyi knew without asking that it must be related to the title he had just won. Sure enough, after hearing Suyi's question, Lily said with some embarrassment. There are many adventurers outside who are clamoring to see you. They say they are here to see what treasures the hero craftsman's shop has. It's a lot faster than I thought. Suyi walked downstairs thoughtfully and found that Hestia had changed into work clothes, but her face looked angry. That's not the expression you use to greet guests. Suyi, when did you come? Never mind, I noticed that the people outside were a little strange. Hestia gnashed her teeth like a cat seeing a mouse. There are several members of Loki's family in the crowd. I think it must be that goddess of poverty who instigated them to cause trouble. It was no surprise that these words came from Hestia's mouth. I heard that she and Loki didn't get along well when they were in heaven, mostly because of the difference in their body shapes. It's harmless. Everyone is a guest. Suyi didn't care at all, as his shop was supposed to sell things at a 997 price. It doesn't matter if the guest is a member of that clan. But the lowly goddess doesn't seem to think so. What if they make some really unreasonable demands? Hestia said with some concern. Goddess, don't think so badly of others. That's true. But they are Loki's followers, so it's reasonable for them to be suspected, right? What's the grudge between you and Loki? Shaking his head, Suyi unbolted the door and pushed open the door to let the light from outside into the store. Look, the adventurer's house is finally open. Is that black-haired boy the hero craftsman that was rumored? I heard that he is a rare genius blacksmith in the Hephaestus family. This shop might have magic swords for sale. Go in and take a look. It was like opening the floodgates of a dam, and adventurers poured in like a tide. Most people crowded into the store and looked at the merchandise on the shelves. There were also a small number of people who were very curious about Suyi and wanted to come up and talk to him. I'm sorry, I have something else to do later, please don't waste your time. Suyi glanced at the wall clock in the store. Because the time of Black Bullet World is synchronized with that of Orario, there is no need to deliberately convert the time ratio. In another hour, he will return to the Tiantong Civilian Security Company to register as a police officer. So you won't spend too much time in the store. He just wanted to come to the store to check out the situation. As for these sudden guests, it was purely accidental. BB Carrot, a short-haired boy who looked a little immature, scratched his head and said embarrassedly. We would like to ask you to customize some equipment. Will you respond? Suyi took a look at the short-haired boy and was impressed. Coupled with the familiar-looking figures beside him, the other party's identity was obvious. Did Loki ask you to come? What are you? Hey, Raoul, don't say anything unnecessary. The black-haired girl with cat ears on the other side coughed lightly and interrupted her companion. Then she looked at Suyi and explained concisely. We are Loki's family, but we came here only because someone recommended this store to us. We just finished an expedition recently and are in urgent need of replenishing our weapons and supplies, so we wanted to come and take a look. Of course, if you refuse, we can find another equipment store. Although the Catman girl said it easily, Suyi knew that as long as he refused. There is no guarantee that rumors such as, the heroic craftsman and his apprentice are just named after their titles, will spread. Okay, the equipment is custom-made, right? Suyi glanced at the members of the Loki clan around him and already had a general idea of the situation in his mind. The main forces of the clan above LV5, such as Sword Princess, Nine Demon Princess, Hero, and Changji, did not come. Those who came were the backbone of the team below LV4, and there were also some low-level newcomers. It seems that Loki also knows that he can't bully too much. Of course, it is also possible that she is not able to control the arrogant top adventurers. After all, Icy and the others had no intention of playing house with Loki. Introduce yourselves first, for example, what weapons you are good at using. Let's start with you. Suyi stretched out his hand and pointed at the short-haired boy who spoke first. Ah, me. The short-haired boy wearing light armor scratched his head. My name is Raoul Nord, LV4, I'm good at using one-handed sword and bow. After hearing the young man's self-introduction, the surrounding adventurers immediately burst into noisy discussions. Although he seems a little unconfident, he is actually a high-level adventurer. Just tell me what weapons you're good at. You're not here for a blind date. Suyi rummaged through the inventory, then pretended to reach out from under the counter to take something out. He then pulled out a Ningxi short bow. The style of this short bow is exactly the same as Desert Disaster and Sahara Double Blade. Apparently, it is also one of the loot dropped by the Desert Scourge. This bow is called Baron, and it can transform ordinary arrows into two high-speed fin arrows that are fired consecutively. Suyi casually put on a wooden arrow and shot it at the human-shaped target in the store in full view of everyone. Only two sharp whistling sounds were heard and disappeared in an instant. Two arrows with fish fin-shaped tails appeared on the target out of nowhere. However, one of them gradually faded and disappeared over time. By the way, the high-speed fin arrow has another feature. Suyi walked over and pulled the arrow out of the target. It won't fall, and even a novice like me who doesn't know how to use a bow can hit whatever I point it at. If you are satisfied with this bow, 5 million Ferris. Thank you for your patronage. The boy named Raoul opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He was indeed called over by Loki, who wanted to put some pressure on Suyi by using the excuse of customizing equipment for high-level clansmen. But he didn't expect that the other party would actually take out a weapon that made him extremely excited. Angie, how much of your reward for this expedition is left? The boy took a few steps back and asked the cat-eared girl in a low voice. Please, I really want this bow. UB*******************************************************************************************'s full name is actually Anarchy T, but the name is too complicated, so her friends usually call her Anchi for short. In fact, she also saw that the weapons just displayed by this hero division were indeed quite excellent. Even she had the urge to try it out, but fortunately, she was not good at using a bow. It's just that my companion probably won't have any pocket money left this month. After handing over the money and receiving the goods, Suyi looked at Anchi again. Next, it's your turn, the furry cat lady. Anchi decided not to reveal a single word, and if the weapon the other party took out did not satisfy her, she would refuse it on the spot. Sword. That'll be much easier. Seeing the cat-eared girl looking angry, Suyi couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. If there is one weapon that is most numerous in the world of Terraria, it must be the sword. After thinking for a moment, Suyi took out a gorgeous sea blue sword from the cabinet just like before. This is a weapon that can only be crafted after defeating the Desert Scourge, called the Sea Blade. To make it, you need to use some materials from the sunken sea. Since this sword has been made, it means that Suyi has discovered the trace of the sinking sea. However, he only explored the surface briefly and did not go deeper. After all, he has been a little too busy recently. After defeating the Eye of Cthulhu this time, I can explore the sunken sea. The sea blade will emit water blade sword energy when attacking, and also has the attribute of indestructibility. As you can see, this is a magic sword. Suyi looked at the cat girl with shining eyes with a smile and said an astronomical figure. 20 million Ferris. For a top adventurer like Icy, this amount might be earned by working overtime in the short term. But Anchi is just an ordinary high-level adventurer of LV4, and all the equipment on her body combined is not as expensive as this sword. Don't look at me, I have no money. Raoul tightly grasped the barand he had just obtained and took a few steps back cautiously. If you want to borrow money, give me your money. Ah, me. Hearing her name, a blonde elf girl with a ponytail next to her blinked. But even if I add the mission rewards I've saved, it's still not enough to buy this bow. Do I have to give up? Angel's cat ears drooped in disappointment. She could only walk aside in frustration, and reluctantly watched Suyi put the sea blade back into the window. The graceful shape and powerful performance made her fall in love with this weapon at first sight. Unfortunately, there is not enough money. Next time I come, I will bring enough money to buy this sword. Suddenly, Anchi looked at Suyi's back and said, "Can you please remove it from the window before that?" Oh, in other words, you want to reserve this sword. Although Suyi's eyes were very calm, without any emotion. But for some reason, Anchi still detected a hint of ridicule in it. Yes, please help me keep this weapon. The cat-eared girl gritted her teeth secretly. It seemed that she would have to borrow money from other members of the tribe when she returned. Fortunately, she is usually popular and should be able to collect 20 million ferris. She had no doubts about the price of the sea blade. If it is true as Suyi said, there are 2 magical attributes. This price seems a bit cheap. After receiving several low-level members of Loki's clan, Suyi set his sights on the last Japanese man, Shenjun. My lovely elf lady, do you have any equipment you want? The remaining adventurer was the blonde elf girl, Lefia. Well, I don't think I have any need for this. Lefia ponders. After a moment, he shook his head with some regret. As a magician, she didn't have high expectations for this place. If you want to make magic items such as magic wands and spell books, you can only rely on alchemists with mystic, or magic, abilities. The Hephaestus family is indeed very famous, but it is limited to blacksmiths, that is, the blacksmith faction. However, seeing Lefia's attitude, Suyi instead felt an inexplicable desire to win. In that case, why not try this? Then, Suyi took out a 5-pointed star emitting a bright blue light from the inventory. Magic crystal. After use, permanently increase the magic limit by 20 points, up to 200 points. At night in Terraria, shining stars occasionally fall from the sky. These stars from space can actually be collected and used as materials. Every 5 inches fallen stars can be synthesized into a magic crystal to increase the magic limit. Suyi had only recently raised his magic power limit to 200 points, which was the point where he could no longer raise it. This magic crystal is the extra one. Anyway, this thing doesn't cost anything to make, so when the meteor shower event occurs, you can make it for free. Suyi simply took it out to see if it could work on the adventurers of Warario. An item that can increase the upper limit of magic power. Lefia took the magic crystal curiously and was about to ask how to use it. But he found that the blue star in his hand suddenly seemed to melt and sank into his body. A strange feeling burst out from the depths of her soul, causing Lefia to cry out involuntarily. The next moment, a gorgeous magic storm swept out from the elf girl, sweeping everything around her like a hurricane. Even Suyi didn't expect that a magic crystal he casually took out would cause such consequences. At this moment, he had only one thought in his mind. Oh no, it looks like I'm going to be late for work today. Chapter 55. This is how a hero should be treated. Haha, I said there was something wrong with what this kid made. Looking at Lefia lying unconscious on the bed, Loki, the chief god of the clan, smiled happily. Of course, such an unseemly behavior was soon hit on the head by the green-haired elf next to him. Lord Loki, you should be more concerned about the health of the 1,000 fairies than the hero craftsman. 1,000 fairies, that is Lefia's title. Judging from this artistic nickname, even the gods are quite fond of her. Yes, I understand, Mother Livelia. Ouch. Once again, Loki was attacked by Livelia's knife because of his nonsense. Although Loki likes to play pranks, he can also be serious when dealing with the children of his clan. After examining the unconscious Lefia, Loki nodded seriously. Rather, the unconscious elf girl is the most precious treasure in the world. She will not resist no matter how you touch her. Lord G. Under the supervision of Livelia, who had a murderous smile on her face. Loki finally told the test results honestly. Lefia is fine, everything is fine. The reason why she is in a coma is because the magic power in her body is too abundant. Too much magic power. Livelia showed a puzzled look. As the 9 magic princesses, and the strongest magician in Orario, she had never heard of such a thing. In her memory, the only cases where magicians fainted due to exhaustion of magic power were those. To put it simply, Lefia is not a sufficient container to hold the excess magic power. So next I have to take off her clothes first. Seeing that Livelia was about to raise the magic wand that was heavy enough to be used as a long-handled weapon, Loki spoke hurriedly. I'm updating Lefia's abilities. Don't think of me as a weird old man. I have reservations about the following comments. After hearing Loki's explanation, Livelia temporarily gave up the idea of stopping her. However, these words also made her vaguely guess something in her heart. Could it be that the item she obtained from the hero craftsman allowed her to have a breakthrough in her ability value? It would be better this way. Loki snorted coldly and narrowed his fox-like eyes. If Lefia makes any mistake, I will make him pay. Wasn't it Lord Loki who asked the children of his clan to cause trouble for that young man? Livelia, am I such a dark god in your eyes? I just heard what you said to those kids. But then again, let me see Lefia's ability value first. Looking at Loki who shamelessly changed the subject, Livelia sighed helplessly. As the deputy leader of the clan, she usually dealt with various troublesome matters in the clan, most of which were to help Loki solve the mess. Over time, she became more like the head of the clan than the deputy head. Even Ice grew up under her watch, just like her own daughter. I heard that Ice was very close to the young man from Hephaestus's family who was awarded the title of heroic craftsman. Alas, there are troublesome children everywhere. Lord Loki is the same, can't he be more mature and stable? Just as Livelia was thinking this, Loki suddenly made a sharp roar like a monkey. Lord Loki, have you forgotten how to speak the common language? No. Loki quickly calmed down from his surprise, but a look of disbelief remained on his face. She handed the record paper in her hand to Livelia and said meaningfully. After you read this, you should have a stronger reaction than I did. This is Lefia's ability value. Livelia lowered her head, glanced, and started browsing. Generally speaking, each adventurer's ability value is confidential information. Apart from the clan's main god, he would not easily tell anyone else. However, Livelia and Lefia have a close relationship, and given the former's status, it wouldn't be a big deal even if she saw it. As a member of the royal family of the elves, Livelia has the right to demand that her fellow elf, Lefia, obey her orders. It's just that she doesn't want to rely on the privileges that come with royal status. Livelia's eyes quickly swept over each basic ability. The value of magic power in the basic attribute has exceeded 1000 and reached SS level. So the limit of the basic attribute is not 999. Finally, Livelia's gaze stopped at the magic column of the ability value. A family member who receives God's favor can only possess up to 3 magics. In fact, awakening magic requires complex factors such as aptitude, luck, and bloodline. For an ordinary adventurer, being able to awaken a magic is already a blessing in disguise. It is rare that all 3 magic slots are filled. Only the elves, a magical race, can easily master multiple magics through their own potential and practice. Lefia's magic bar has been filled up, the spirit bow light arrow, volley fire javelin. And the magic of the fairy ring, that earned her the title of Thousand Fairies. But at this time, there was another blank space at the bottom of the magic column. Not only did she break through the upper limit of the basic ability of magic power, she even got a blank magic slot. As a magician herself, Livelia naturally knew what this meant. Although Lefia is only LV3 now, her potential may even surpass that of me at LV6. After a moment, Livelia seemed to have made up her mind and turned to walk towards the exit of the clan headquarters. Livelia, what are you going to do? Loki's voice came from behind. The children of the clan have caused a lot of trouble to the hero craftsman today, so I naturally need to go over and express my apologies. Livelia answered as a matter of course. Also, I'm also curious about what happened to Lefia. Oh, since it's on your way, why don't you say hello to Hephaestus for me? Haha. Apologies are only useful if you show up in person. Tisk. I know, really. However, when Livelia arrived at the adventurer's house, she only received the news that Su Yi was not in the store. He has something to do all day today. Should he go explore the dungeon? Hestia looked at Riveria, who was wearing the Elf King's holy clothes, and said with caution. Why did the 9 demon princesses of Loki's family come to see my Suyi? Quote. Livelia couldn't help but correct. I remember that the Harrowsmith is a member of Hephaestus's familia. So what? Hephaestus and I are like sisters. She won't care about such a small matter. After thinking for a moment, Livelia decided not to continue with this meaningless topic. Anyway, I apologize for bothering you this morning. Quote. Seeing Livelia put down her airs as a LV6 adventurer and apologized in a serious manner. Even the lowly goddess couldn't find any fault with it and could only mutter. When it comes to apologies, you have to say it to him in person for it to be effective. 080 Hearing this familiar sentence, Livelia was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that there would be a time when I was being lectured, and the words used were the same ones I used to lecture Loki. If I could meet him, I would apologize to him in person. Do you know when he'll be in the store? At night. He usually comes to the store for a while at this time to replenish the goods. I understand. Thank you, Lady Hestia, for clearing up my confusion. Livelia nodded slightly and turned to leave. The lowly goddess was left in the store, deep in thought. That guy Suyi made quite a big fuss this time. Even the 9 demon princesses of the elf royal family couldn't sit still anymore. But this is the treatment a hero should receive. Black Bullet World, ISO Tokyo Headquarters. Mr. Suyi, your registration procedures have been basically completed. There's only one step left. Suyi nodded after taking a series of documents handed over by the staff. I know, it's, claim the starter, right. Since you understand, I don't need to explain it any further. The staff took out a terminal and rows of portraits appeared on the screen. These avatars are all young girls. They have different appearances, but they have the same characteristics. Their eyes were all light red. Those who started it were all cursed children. Their characteristic feature is their devilish red eyes. Seeing Suyi turning the pages quickly, the staff kindly reminded him. Click on the avatar to view detailed information of different starters. No need, just choose. Suyi directly locked onto the profile picture of a little girl and confirmed it. Ahara Enju, I hope to be her promoter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 56, The Sunken Sea Laboratory, Combat Contractor. Soon, a little girl in plain clothes came to Suyi under the guidance of the staff. Apart from the label hanging on her clothes, she had no other decorations on her body. The waist-length scarlet hair was simply draped behind her, not the twin ponytails that Suyi remembered. Sir, are you sure you want to choose her? The staff member at the side glanced at the information in his hand and said it in front of the little girl without any hesitation. Her enterovirus erosion rate has exceeded 30%. Even with the inhibitors provided regularly by the institution, there is still a great risk. The cursed child is a child who is infected with the enterovirus from the womb. This group is characterized by being born with certain protozoan viruses and protozoan-related abilities. In addition, there is some impact caused by the protozoan virus. All known, cursed children, or girls. The cursed children who have been adopted and trained by IISO can serve as partners of the police. But every time they release the ability of the protogastric animals, the rate of viral erosion in their bodies increases. Once the erosion rate of the protozoan virus exceeds 50%, it will be impossible to maintain the human form and will transform into a protozoan. Although some research institutions have developed inhibitors that can slow down the rate of viral erosion after the war. But it was just a slight easing of the accelerator for a car with failing brakes. Therefore, when selecting initiators, the police will pay special attention to the value of the virus erosion rate. A lower erosion rate means you can be more relaxed in combat, and it also means that this weapon is more durable. I hope your organization can use more humane language when handling business. Suyi glanced at the staff without revealing much emotion. Perhaps from the other person's perspective, what he just said was actually for his own good. I don't need to change the starter, so I chose her. After completing the final formalities, Suyi officially became a civilian security practitioner. Coming out of the IISO headquarters building with him was the starter that had just been delivered. There was another person who came with us, and he was the president of our company. Holding the little girl's hand, Suyi said as they walked. But she has to go to school at the aristocratic girls' school, so she only comes to the company at night on weekdays. This is fine. As long as we meet our performance targets, we can go wherever we want without having to sit in an office. Although Su Yi was late on his first day at work, Miss Kasara was not much better. After rushing him to the IISO headquarters, he hurried to school. Even the registration procedures were handled by Su Yi himself, and the president did not play any role at all. Listening to Su Yi's mumbling, the little girl named Ahara Yenju remained silent and just followed his footsteps mechanically. It seems that the current, Ahara Yenju, has not become more cheerful yet. Su Yi raised his hand to call a car, thinking secretly in his heart. Even when he was looking at her, Yenju's face was dull and her eyes were empty. If it didn't blink occasionally, it would probably be mistaken for a lifeless porcelain doll. The cultivation system. It's nice to change things up once in a while. On the way back, Su Yi used identification on Yenju. As expected, Yenju also has a contract skill. However, her contract is somewhat similar to that of Minami Rika, both of which are related to combat. However, the triggering method is completely different. Contract skill, Cursed Child. The bonus to jump times and height will also apply to melee attacks. The skill effect will be shared when teaming up with other cursed children. Holding the same color of big gems is considered a team, and the maximum number of people in a team is 5. Teaming up is a mechanism in the Terraria world when playing with multiple people. When in a team state, you can use some team props. For example, the wormhole potion can teleport you to another teammate. It turns out that we can form a team this way. But the cost is a bit high. Seeing the identified information, Su Yi felt a little pain. Large gems can be synthesized by combining 15 gems of the same type, such as diamonds, amethysts, emeralds, rubies, etc. It was originally a flag-grabbing prop used in a PvP game, but now it has become a team-building item. With Su Yi's current gem reserves, it's a pipe dream to want to put together a full 5-man team. It seems that the acquisition of Adventurer's House is also on the agenda. To earn so much money, you naturally have to exchange it for resources. Originally, Su Yi planned to wait until he had accumulated some assets before starting the acquisition business. He didn't want to steal business from the Adventurers Guild and recycle magic stones. Instead, they purchase resources such as ores and gems from adventurers. Because of the existence of the dungeon, Orario is extremely rich in resources, from potions to minerals. There are also fixed material production points on specific floors to facilitate adventurers' collection. It is said that there are high-grade minerals such as mithril, orichalcum, and adamantium in the deep dungeons. These also have corresponding ores in the Terraria world, and can be converted into useful materials through identification. Su Yi does not have enough financial resources to purchase materials such as mithril for the time being. But you can start considering gold, silver and gems. The associations generated by Yenju's talent came to an end when the taxi arrived at the Tiantong Civilian Security Company. We're here. This is our company. Leading Yenju into the small office, Su Yi sat in the president's favorite armchair and looked at the little girl in front of him. Theoretically, I'm your partner from now on. But I still need to sign a contract with you. Yenju's eyes finally wavered. She raised her head in confusion and met Su Yi's eyes. Question mark quote. Can. It is probably a document like a contract that you need to sign when you join a company. Yenju didn't ask any more questions and just agreed. For a little girl around 10 years old, this is all the possibilities she can think of. She didn't react until Su Yi's will left an indelible mark on her soul. Should I call you, Master? Or something else? Please don't call me that. Su Yi immediately rejected Yenju's proposal, feeling a chill on his back. Fortunately, there was no one else in the office. If someone hears me asking a little girl to call me Master when I'm walking outside, I'm afraid he will become socially dead in Tokyo. The process of signing the contract with Yenju went very smoothly, which was also expected. 014603124 Filu 172,203,131. After all, she was originally a cursed child who was trained to be the initiator. I'm afraid that before being claimed by Su Yi, he was taught not to disobey the orders of the promoter. After granting Yenju the right to enter and exit Terraria, Su Yi teleported her directly to the birth point. This is another world. There is no one here except me and some contractors like you. Next, I need you to assist me in exploring a certain area of this world. You might run into an enemy, well, just like a Gastrula. There's no problem with the battle, right? After listening carefully to Su Yi's introduction, there was finally some brilliance in Hehehe Yenju's eyes. Fighting. I'm good at it. Very good. Su Yi nodded and began to rummage through the boxes, intending to get a set of equipment for Yenju as well. The contractor can also wear equipment and accessories. It's just that there has never been anyone who can accompany him in exploring. Okay, that's it. This time, Su Yi prepared 2 sets of Shengqiu helmets for himself and Yanju. Because the area that needs to be explored this time is the Sunken Sea, an ancient ocean located under the desert. When moving through water, Victide armor allows the wearer to walk as if on flat ground, with almost no effect from the liquid's resistance. In addition, Su Yi also prepared 2 sea wave necklaces that can provide oxygen when stationary. Although he had more than enough Gil's potions in his inventory, it was always a good idea to have a fallback plan. Take these potions, and drink 2 bottles when the light on your body disappears and your vision becomes dark. Su Yi handed a portion of the light potion to Yenju and instructed. Don't be afraid of wasting, your safety is the most important. The light potion can make you emit light and illuminate the surrounding environment. The effect of the night vision potion is just as the name suggests. Even corners without light can be seen clearly. These 2 potions are very useful when exploring environments such as caves and the seabed. Yenju took the potion, hesitated for a few seconds and suddenly said. Can I call you brother? It seems that she has been thinking about how to call Su Yi during this period. As long as you like it. At least compared to calling him master, calling him your brother on the street won't attract the attention of the police. Seeing Su Yi agreed, Yenju's face suddenly broke into a happy smile. Only at this time did Su Yi vaguely see the shadow of Hehehe Yenju in his memory. Brother Su Yi. Well, what's wrong? It's okay, hehe. Su Yi touched Yenju's head and thought that she and Lily might get along well. Are you ready? It's time to go. The sinking sea. Rumor has it that the desert in Terraria was originally an endless ocean. It also gave birth to the maritime nation, Ilmaris, which is famous for its magic. The reason why it has become what it is now is that the magic of the Sulfur Witch disaster boiled the ocean and killed all living things. The once prosperous maritime kingdom is now only left with a few remnant puddles. This is the origin of the sinking sea. Yenju seemed to have discovered something and was about to turn around and report to Su Yi. But he forgot that he was in the water, and when he opened his mouth, only a bunch of bubbles came out. Fortunately, the Gil potion ensured that she could breathe underwater, so no accident happened. I saw it too. Su Yi nodded to her and pointed forward, motioning Yenju to follow him. All you can see is the endless expanse of coral and nutrient-rich sand. An underwater laboratory with an exposed steel frame is emitting a steady light from the window. Some gentle marine creatures seem to regard this place as a light source, swimming back and forth from time to time. Finally found it, the Sunken Sea Laboratory. Seeing a corner of this underwater building, Su Yi's heart was filled with anxiety. He had 2 main purposes for exploring the Sunken Sea this time, and collecting materials was only secondary. One purpose is to find the location of the mini-boss, the Colossus Clam. After defeating it, some materials for making equipment will drop, and a new NPC function will be unlocked. Another purpose is to find the garden laboratory located in the Sunken Sea. Unexpectedly, the boss is still missing, but the whereabouts of the laboratory is found first. Go in and take a look. Su Yi swam directly over, and when he got close, the door of the laboratory opened automatically. I don't know what kind of black technology was used, but the seawater outside was actually blocked off consciously. After entering the laboratory with seawater all over his body, Su Yi reached out and caught Yenju, who was also swimming over. I can finally speak. Yenju shook her wet hair and cleaned the seaweed off her body. I didn't expect there would be such a structure under the water. It looks more advanced than the laboratory at IISO. That's much more advanced. Hearing this, Su Yi couldn't help but smile. The power of Jaden's creations rivals that of God's, which is why he pursues Jaden's laboratory. Although some of the early Jaden equipment are mostly fashionable little garbage with unknown meaning. But this does not prevent the powerful weapons of Jaden from becoming more powerful after the technology has been improved. The Sunken Sea Laboratory is the first nuclear issuance laboratory, before the asteroid laboratory. It can be said that this is the starting point of all Jiadeng technologies. By Li Jiao. Be careful of the turret in the lab. I'm scouting ahead. 1. The turrets in the sunken sea laboratory are similar to those in the asteroid experiment, both are pulse laser turrets. Suyi knew this thing very well. As long as he had cover, he could easily avoid the turret's attack. After dismantling the few experimental turrets, Suyi was finally able to start looting with peace of mind. The overall structure of the laboratory is in the shape of an oblique, 8. The upper left deck has an aquarium containing a sunken sea landscape. On the lower right was a very complete sea prism column. After collecting all of them, Suyi counted them and found that there were more than 200 pieces. Finally, we don't have to dig for prism fragments all over the sunken sea. There is a reason why Suyi is so happy. It takes 5 pieces of building crystal fragments to synthesize a piece of sea building crystal. It takes 7 sea prisms to make a sea blade, which is all the materials Suyi can collect in one exploration. With these 200 or so sea prisms, Suyi basically doesn't need to collect any additional prism fragments. In the center of the laboratory is a vein of sinking stone, which Suyi also collected. Sinking stone can be collected in the sinking sea. It is not very rare and its uses are not widespread. It can only be used as a building material, or to make a water turret, or a later decoration. In addition, Suyi also discovered several new energy battery factories and charging stations. 014603124 Philu 172,203,131. Now his daily battery production can reach a new high. Suyi came to the most valuable safe in the entire laboratory and opened it. A list of props quickly popped up in front of me. The following items are included in the safety box. Suspicious plating X15, mysterious circuit X10, torch X30, gold X12, healing potion X10, yellow locator X1, gravity potion X6, prototype map, sunken sea. Chapter 57 Suyi. That's right, I am cut out to be the Sea King. Yes, everything that was supposed to come has come. Looking at the dazzling array of props, Suyi directly took out the coin slot. Stuffed the contents of the safe into the space in the piggy bank. His inventory is already filled with materials collected during exploration. There's only room in the piggy bank. If Lily were here, there would be no problem fitting these things in. It's a pity that she is not suitable for going out to explore, so she would be fine as a shop assistant. The props in the safety box include a locator and a prototype map. The locator can be charged to point to the location of the next laboratory. However, the accuracy is not high, and energy needs to be consumed for frequent positioning to gradually approach the correct position. Prototype diagrams can be used to unlock some basic Jaden technology equipment. Suyi already had an encrypted prototype map asteroid in his hand. However, the prototype image requires a decryption computer to decipher. The encrypted prototype map, the sinking sea that had just been taken out of the safe, did not need to be cracked. As soon as he got started, Suyi had already acquired the corresponding knowledge. You have unlocked the formula for decryption computer. You have unlocked the recipes for Gauss dagger, pulse pistol, Star Eater control component, taser, and shadow chaser. The decryption computer is an essential tool for cracking subsequent prototypes. The weapons that are unlocked later correspond to the warrior, mage, summoner, shooter and thief professions respectively. Although the recipes for these weapons have been unlocked, sky blue ingots were required to make these Jaden weapons. This is a mineral that only generates on the Sky Island, and it cannot be collected at this time. It can only be mined after defeating the Hive, or Mind of the Hive. At least there's a goal to move forward. After packing up all the things, Suyi looked at Yanju, who was leaning on the window and looking out. It's almost time to leave. Yanju, what are you looking at? This place feels like an oceanarium, Yanju said with some reluctance. Looking out from inside the laboratory, it is a beautiful picture. The prismatic fragments inside the crystal cave emit light, dyeing the sea water a bright blue. The gentle ghost jellyfish and aquatic rays float freely by. From time to time, there are slow-moving prism-backed turtles moving slowly with lazy steps. They will not be hostile to passing visitors, unless they are actively attacked. If you want to watch it, you can watch it for a while longer, Suyi said without minding at all. If he hadn't brought his fishing rod, he could have dug a hole in the laboratory floor to go fishing. The best thing about fishing in Terraria is that you will rarely come back empty-handed, and you can catch all kinds of strange and bizarre treasures. And, hearing Suyi's words, Yanju nodded and looked at the sea view in front of her again. But she was always thinking about Suyi in her heart. Due to the high erosion rate of enterovirus, she never had the chance to become the initiator. Today, when I heard that someone wanted me to be a police partner, I felt half happy and half scared. According to some news I heard before, even if you become a starter, you will only be used as a consumable. Not only must they fully obey the promoter, but they must also fight against dangerous gastruli. Once the virus is injected by protozoa, the erosion rate will be too high and out of control. At that time, they will have to be forced to deal with, that is, executed. Faced with such an assignment, Lanju naturally had no hope for her future life. But judging from today's interactions, maybe I've met a good master. No, it should be, brother. Question mark quote. Suddenly, Yenju rubbed his eyes and said in surprise. Brother Su Yi, a huge thing suddenly appeared. Where? Su Yi, who was sorting out his inventory, shuddered and hurried to the glass wall of the laboratory. At the location Yenju pointed to, a huge clam the size of a van, emitting blue light, was slowly opening its shell. Giant elephant clam. I didn't expect it to come to my door. Seeing the giant clam in front of him, Su Yi immediately took out the super thermal ion cannon. Yanju, prepare to fight, is that okay? I'll do my best, brother. Having finally got the chance to show himself, Yenju quickly entered combat mode. Her weapon is the Sahara twin blades given to her by Su Yi. This weapon requires a flexible posture to be effective. As a carrier of the rabbit-like gastrula gene, Yenju's mobility is unquestionable. It will continue to summon small monsters, and you have to clean up those small clams. Before diving into the sea water, Su Yi gave instructions at the door of the laboratory. As for this big guy, I'll deal with it. Always keep an eye on the top of your head, it might suddenly attack you. The challenge difficulty of the giant elephant clam is not high. After all, it is not a particularly powerful enemy, just a mini-boss. There are only two ways to attack. One is to close the shell, gain high defense and summon monsters at the same time. The other is to suddenly teleport to the top of the enemy's head and launch an attack like a mountain falling on their heads. Both of these attacks are easy to handle. The most difficult part of the entire challenge is actually finding the location of this mini-boss. The tranquility and peace of the sunken sea was broken by the laser emitted by the superthermal ion cannon. Su Yi is now wearing the Victory Tide suit, although he has lost the magic bonus of the jungle armor. However, he has increased his magic power to 200 points through magic crystals. Even if the 60-point magic limit is gone, it won't be a big deal. On the contrary, the underwater mobility provided by the Victory Tide suit is more important at this time. Enraged by the continuous attacks, the magic pearl inside the giant clam emitted bursts of light. This is the source of its power and the last rays of light from the ancient ocean nation of Ilmaris. In an instant, a large number of bubbles fell from above Su Yi's head. This is the prelude to the giant clam's attack that is about to come crashing down on you. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The corners of Su Yi's mouth rose slightly, and a ferocious shield appeared in his hand without him noticing. This shield is shaped like an eyeball, but with a gaping mouth in the middle. Cthulhu's shield Rainbow provides 2 points of defense, gains the sprint ability, and avoids damage while sprinting. This is one of the trophies for defeating the Eye of Cthulhu, and it is the most important reward. Even if he doesn't want any other drops, Su Yi must keep this accessory. Because its effect is so good, it has an invincible time sprint ability, it is simply a magical skill for single combat. With the help of sprinting, Su Yi instantly moved several meters away from his current position. The giant clam's huge body fell down with a loud bang, stirring up the silt and nutrient-rich sand on the seabed. The next moment, two-phase laser balls pierced through the dusty waters and exploded inside the giant elephant. Yenju on the side was also working hard to clean up the monsters that appeared with the giant elephant clam. If left alone, the little clams will open their shells and fire a barrage of bullets at Su Yi. Because of Yenju's contract skills, Su Yi specially equipped her with his cloud bottle, giving her the ability to double jump. The attack with the double jump bonus is quite powerful, and it can almost kill a monster directly every time. With Yenju's help, Su Yi didn't need to worry about being harassed by monsters and could concentrate on depleting the health of the giant elephant clam. In less than 5 minutes, the giant clam was killed by Su Yi, and the magical light on its body gradually dimmed. A lot of materials fell out of its shell, among which there were 1 or 2 props, which were quite conspicuous. Su Yi swam over and put all the items in front of him into the piggy bank. Although the inventory that had just been organized was now in a mess again, this was also a happy trouble. Come to think of it, I remember that after killing the giant clam, an NPC called Sea King would come out from it. Just when Suyi was confused, several prompts suddenly popped up in front of him. You have unlocked the Sea King function. This role cannot be assigned and can only be performed by you. Suyi has always been the one who assigns duties to contractors. I didn't expect that he would have a job. Tit. Why does the role of Sea King sound like a scumbag? Chapter 58. We are heading in both directions, why apologize? After returning to the hut at the birth point, Suyi quickly figured out the function of the Sea King. When Suyi serves as the Sea King, he will have the ability to breathe underwater and move freely. He can also grant Sea King's blessing to others, giving them the same benefit, but it only lasts for 10 minutes. In addition, he can also open the Sea King store and buy some sea ocean themed props. But what made Suyi happiest was that now, even if there were no contractors around, he could still open the store and buy and sell items. Now I don't have to worry about running out of space in my inventory. There are many weapons in Aquaman's shop, most of which are related to the sea. Suyi took a few glances and found that these weapons were quite ordinary and he could hardly use them, but they could be placed in the store to show off. In addition, there are the spoils of Giant Clam. Because it is only a mini-boss, the giant clam does not drop a treasure bag. Suyi took out a bunch of materials from the piggy bank, sinking abyss stone and mollusk shells. These two are the materials for making the Sunken Sea series of equipment, and can be made into a soft shell suit, with extremely high defense. The attribute bonus provided by this set of armor is excellent, even comparable to the armor in the middle stage of hard mode. But it will greatly reduce its mobility and is extremely heavy. I wonder if my ability can offset the negative effects of this armor. Anyway, since I have the skill of Terra Craftsman, I will have to make a set sooner or later. Suyi simply took out all the sea prisms he had collected and started making them. Crafting a set of soft shell armor requires 31 mollusk shells and 60 sea prisms. Because he had explored the laboratory, Suyi had a lot of sea prisms, but the mollusk shells were just enough. After making a set of armor, you will not be able to make other weapons in the Sunken Sea series. Although he felt a little disappointed, Suyi's eyes suddenly lit up after seeing the properties of the soft shell armor. Soft shell armor pink. Plus 55 defense. Plus 37% attack damage. Plus 14% critical hit rate. Minus 22% movement speed. Can move freely in liquid. Summon 2 sinking shells to protect you. Equipment data is only for comparison, not detailed. To be honest, even if there are negative effects, it is hard not to be tempted by such attributes. You know, Suyi's best armor right now, jungle armor, only has 17 points of defense. This gear will probably last until we defeat the Wall of Flesh. Suyi put on the entire set of soft shell armor, and indeed felt that his movements were somewhat hindered. But the impact is not that big. As long as you can adapt, it will just be a little extra weight. However, Suyi was not particularly satisfied with this result. If we use the decomposition of the stigmata alchemy, maybe we can do it. Looking at the heavy armor on his body, Suyi gently brushed it with his hand. When he was just making it, he had already completed the analysis of the structure and materials of the soft shell armor. Breakdown. The armor covering Suyi suddenly disappeared as if it was melting. Finally, Suyi's casual clothes were revealed under the armor. But as Suyi snapped his fingers lightly, then he saw the armor that had just disappeared appeared on his body again. That's right. When you are in battle, you can show the armor to save time in putting on the equipment. The properties of equipment and items in Terraria are fixed. But Suyi can use his forging skills and alchemy to transform it. The one-click outfit change he just demonstrated is actually the result of his recent research into stigmata alchemy. In addition to the soft shell suit, the giant elephant clam also contributed a magic book and 2 accessories to Suyi. It can be said that all the family assets were emptied for Suyi. It's actually this thing. Suyi was a little surprised to see the magic book with a trident pattern on the cover. It seems that the super thermal ion cannon will finally be temporarily retired. Poseidon pink. Consume 12 magic power to release the Typhoon of Poseidon, the god of the sea. Each typhoon can cause up to 6 damages. The typhoon will automatically track the enemy and cause 52 points of magic damage and eutrophication debuff. This is a magic weapon with a tracking effect. Su Yi walked out of the hut and raised his hand to release a blue-green whirlwind. The tornado paused for a moment after being released, and then flew towards a slime in the distance. In less than a second, the slime that was rolled up high turned into several silver coins and gel and fell from midair. High damage, many hit points, tracking, this is it. Su Yi happily put the magic book in the front of the inventory for easy access. With his total magic power, he can release more than a dozen sea god typhoons in an instant, sweeping the entire place. Although the super thermionic cannon is good, its basic damage is a bit too low before the third upgrade, which is not commensurate with the high mana consumption of 20 points. After Su Yi defeats the World Devourer, maybe he will be able to have a second spring. The last item dropped by the giant clam is a ring inlaid with a huge pearl. Question mark. Big pearl, green. After equipping, you will gain Pearl Halo. Enemy and barrage within the aura range are slowed down. Provide a small amount of light underwater. Aura effect is ineffective against boss. Not bad. Although I can't upgrade it any further, it should be useful during my daily explorations. Su Yi put the pearl ring on his hand, and a soft light emanated from him. He found that his skin had become as round and white as pearl, looking very attractive. This thing also has beauty effects. Su Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he turned off the special effects of the accessories, and then it returned to its original state. Wrote. Although it looks okay, the glowing body is too eye-catching. After defeating the giant elephant clam, Su Yi's equipment has been completely upgraded. In terms of weapons, the superthermal ion cannon was finally retired and replaced by the more powerful Poseidon. The armor has been greatly upgraded, and accessories have also added practical props such as Cthulhu's shield and large pearl. Next, it's time to challenge the boss of the corruption, the World Devourer. With my current strength, I should be able to pass it easily in one go, right? Su Yi simulated it in his mind. Unless he deliberately wanted to die, he would definitely be able to crush the World Devourer. After all, his current equipment is already at the late stage of development, and the World Devourer is only an early stage boss. Find a time tomorrow or the day after tomorrow to awaken the World Devourer and kill him. This should trigger the meteorite event. After defeating the Will of the Rot Nest, you can also explore the Sky Island and collect some sky blue ore. Then, we have to go deep into hell and dig some hellstones. There are so many things to do that I can't finish them all. After stretching, Su Yi asked Yenju to go back to the company first, and then returned to Orrery to check the situation of the store. After all, although he had dealt with the difficulties posed by Loki's family in the morning, there was no telling if there would be other accidents. Livelia is looking for me. After hearing the news conveyed by the Lolita goddess, Su Yi was a little confused. Why would the famous 9 demon princesses suddenly come to visit me? Oh, is it because of Lefia's matter? Only then did he remember that the magic crystal he gave to Lefia was inexplicably used up. The fairy girl fell into a coma and had to be sent to Loki's clan to check on her condition. I didn't expect that I would be visited by someone as soon as I got back. You're not going to ask me to pay you. Don't worry, judging from the child's attitude, he won't make things difficult for you. Hestia saw Su Yi frowning and reached out to smooth his brows. She wanted to come over to apologize to you this morning. Apologize to me, why? This sentence made Su Yi even more confused. Have you forgotten already? Hestia pointed to the counter of the store and reminded. Didn't a group of Loki's children come to you this morning to order equipment? It's probably because of this. Su Yi pondered for a moment and shrugged. I took the money, they got the equipment they wanted, it was a two-way trip, why apologize? But since Livelia wants to see me, I'll just go and see her. It won't cost me anything anyway. Did she say where to meet? Where else could it be? Hestia shrugged. Of course it's the favorite tavern of Loki's family, the Rich Lady River. Chapter 59, Strategic Partner of the Elves. Although Su Yi had been to Hostas of Abundance many times, this was her first time going up to the private room on the second floor. After all, in most cases he would pack up the food and feed it to a certain goddess. After opening the door of the box, Su Yi saw Livelia inviting him. The blonde elf girl, Lefia, who was sitting next to her for some reason. Good evening, hero craftsman, of the Hephaestus familia. Hearing Livelia call out her title so solemnly, Su Yi scratched his cheek and sat opposite the two of them. There is no need for such a complicated title, Lady 9 Demon Princess. Hehe, Then just call me by my name, Su Yi. Livelia said with a smile. The temperament she exuded was elegant and noble, but not aggressive. Her soft tone made people feel gentle like a spring breeze. I'm glad you accepted my invitation. I'd like to apologize to you on behalf of Lord Loki. There's no need to mention this matter again. Su Yi shook his head, interrupting what Livelia was about to say. Actually, I didn't feel any pressure. It's better to say that the adventurers from your clan just helped me clean up my inventory. Livelia thought of how Angel was borrowing money everywhere in the clan, 097, today, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. Thank you for your generosity, and then there's another thing. As she spoke, Jumoji placed her hand on Lefia's head and gently stroked it. It's about this kid. You gave her something today, and then she fell into a coma. Is this the exact process? Su Yi's expression was stern, thinking that they were finally getting into a serious topic. But looking at the appearance of 1,000 fairies, it seems that there are no sequelae left. After thinking about it, Su Yi said to Lefia sincerely. I'm so sorry, I didn't expect that thing to cause such a commotion, and I've never seen anything like it before. Faced with Su Yi's apology, Lefia was a little at a loss. The delicate facial features unique to the elves revealed a hint of childishness and confusion, but could not conceal the natural beauty unique to the race. Well, you don't need to apologize. Rather, I should thank you. Quote. The 9-demon princess next to them coughed lightly, interrupting the two people who were having a somewhat out-of-tune conversation. It seems that Su Yi, you don't understand the full picture of the matter. Let me explain it from the beginning. Then, Livelia systematically summarized what happened after Lefia fell into unconsciousness. When Su Yi heard that Lefia's magic bar exceeded the upper limit and an extra slot appeared out of thin air, his eyes almost popped out. What the hell? How come I didn't know about this? Thinking back, Su Yi finally came to his senses. He doesn't even have any magic now, so naturally he can't see the difference. Anyway, when updating the ability value, it is always blank. Etc. After Livelia finished speaking, Su Yi looked at the somewhat shy elf girl thoughtfully. Doesn't this mean that Lefia is now the only adventurer in Orario who can possess 4 magics? Of course, except for him. That's right. Livelia admitted it on behalf of Lefia. This is a fact that has been verified by our clan's main god, Lord Loki. So I want to know, what exactly did you give to Lefia at that time? After a pause, Livelia looked stern and saluted Su Yi solemnly. I know this may involve some of your privacy, such as developing abilities, or reporting abilities. But I guarantee you as the elven royal family that no third party will know about today's conversation. Seeing Livelia's words so solemnly, Su Yi did not respond immediately, but fell into thought. The two elves did not interrupt his meditation, but waited patiently. Because Su Yi's answer may be related to the future of the elves. Before that, finally, Su Yi considered his words and asked. Lady Livelia, may I ask why you take this matter so seriously? As if she had anticipated Su Yi's question, Livelia answered without hesitation. Young man, you are a human being, and you may not understand the importance of magic to our race. The elves, along with the legendary fairies, are known as the most representative magical race and are born with extremely strong magical aptitude. Even non-caster elf adventurers have a very high chance of activating innate magic from their blood. For some races that cannot comprehend magic in their entire lives, this is tantamount to a dimensionality reduction attack. But for the elves, the limitation of only being able to master 3 spells directly restricts the upper limit of the race's development. Even Livelia, who is known as the 9 demon princesses. It is just a combination of different chanting stages between the 3 magics. To achieve 9 different magic effects, only Lefia can use the special fairy ring magic. Release the thousands of spells mastered by the elves. This is also the origin of the title, 1,000 Fairies. But the elves only have 1,000 fairies, and Livia sees new hope in the changes that happened to her. That is to use the mysterious item in Su Yi's hand to allow all members of the elves to break through the restrictions and master 4 kinds of magic. I see. Even if other races break through the limits, I'm afraid they won't have that much magic to awaken. Su Yi understood the implicit meaning of Livelia's words and concluded. Only the elves who have accumulated thousands of magics can bring the advantages of the 4th magic slot to the fullest. I think what I said is correct, Lady Livelia. That's right. Livelia cast an approving look at Su Yi. At this age, he can see through the interests involved at a glance. It seems that he is not just a rough blacksmith. So, can we continue with the previous topic? Any information about the item in my hand? Suyi thought for a moment, then said. A few days ago, I was promoted to LV2 and was awarded the title of Hero Craftsman. You two should both be aware of this. Livelia nodded awkwardly. Not only was it clear, but even this title was thought up by the main god of their clan. When I was leveling up, I chose to develop an ability, Stigma Alchemy. Alchemy. Hearing this, Jumoji seemed to understand something. Aurario's alchemy can indeed create some magical items with incredible effects. These include the Philosopher's Stone, that can grant people immortality, and even the Resurrection item, that can bring the dead back to life. But she had only heard of ordinary alchemy. This Stigma Alchemy seems to be a rare ability that has never been seen before. Because it was related to Suyi's ability value information, Livelia did not continue to ask. Yes, relying on this ability, I created an item called Magic Crystal. Suyi reached into his pocket and pulled out a blue magic crystal from the inventory. Ah, that's it. Lefia covered her mouth lightly and cried out subconsciously. Seeing her reaction, Livelia looked at Suyi with twinkling eyes. Even the 9 demon princesses were jealous of this special item that could break through boundaries. Maybe after she has the 4th magic slot, her title will become 16 magic princesses, and so on. Can you mass-produce this item called Magic Crystal? Of course, no. Seeing Livelia's fiery gaze that seemed to want to lock her up in a small dark room and squeeze her hard, Suyi naturally would not give her a satisfactory answer. Only by taking the initiative into your own hands can you be qualified to bargain. In fact, I have only made 2 so far. Shrugging, Suyi lightly flicked the magic crystal in his hand, making a crisp sound. This movement seemed to pluck Livelia's heartstrings, causing her to look away involuntarily. If you are willing to cooperate, we the elves can bear all the expenses of making magic crystals. Livelia naturally heard the hidden meaning of Suyi and quoted the price without hesitation. In addition, I can pay you a considerable sum of money in the name of the elf royal family. What are the costs of making a magic crystal? This thing only requires 5 fallen stars to synthesize. For Suyi, just strolling around Terraria at 0.2 in the evening can bring him several more magic crystals in his pocket. Of course, he would never tell anyone such business secrets. Anyway, the effect of magic crystal is real. Since there is demand, there is a market. The material aspect is easy to solve, but... Seeing Suyi looking embarrassed, Livelia asked with concern. As long as it's related to the magic crystal, I can fully support you on behalf of the elves. All right. Livelia said so, and Suyi seemed to have finally made up his mind. I'm going to talk about this next. Please. Lefia, do you want to go out and avoid suspicion? Don't worry, this child is very obedient and won't tell your secret to anyone. Livelia touched the 1,000 fairies' head. If it weren't for the different hair color, they really looked like a family. You chose this. After muttering to himself, Suyi finally spoke. In order to make magic crystals, I need to use something called Holy Milk, to strengthen the ability of Stigmata Alchemy. Chapter 60, Fetal Movement from the Forbidden Zone outside the monolith. Even when she stepped out of the threshold of the Mistress of Fertility, Lefia was still a little dazed. What just happened kept replaying in her mind. It is hard to imagine that Her Highness Livelia, who is of such a high status, would actually do such a thing. Suddenly, the figure in front of Lefia stopped, and the dazed girl didn't notice it and bumped into it. Oh. Lefia quickly came to her senses and looked up to see Livelia looking at her with a very kind expression. Lefia. I'm here. Lady Riveria. You didn't see anything today, understand? If I ask knowingly at this time, I will probably be silenced on the spot by the ashamed and angry Princess Livelia with the advanced sword of victory, right? Lefia couldn't help but recall the bloody scene during the expedition where the 9 demon princesses easily wiped out a large number of monsters with high-level magic. Understood. I just came here to have dinner with Lady Livelia today. Besides, Livelia breathed a sigh of relief and said seriously. You are not allowed to mention the transaction with the hero craftsman to anyone, including your fellow tribesmen. Before we figure out the detailed effects of the magic crystal, if anyone asks you about it, just play dumb. Hey. At this moment, Lefia could only give an awkward but polite smile. Yes, that's it. Livelia nodded, her eyes inadvertently looking towards the tavern behind her. Her pointed ears couldn't help but twitch a few times. Her heart was not as calm as it seemed on the surface. After all, she had been asked to do so. As a proud magical race, the elves have extremely strong self-esteem and will only allow those they identify with to touch them. However, just now, she not only allowed the young man to touch her, but also did something 1,000 times more serious. If those old stubborn people in the tribe knew what I did today, I'm afraid they will send someone to kidnap me back to the Elf King's city overnight and never allow me to contact the outside world again. Of course, these old guys have to beat her first. Using holy milk to improve the effect of alchemy, this world is really full of wonders. As an eyewitness, Livelia was quite moved. Although she agreed to the other party's conditions at that time, Livelia had already planned to. Once she finds out that the other person is just flirting with her, she will take action immediately and make him pay the price he deserves. However, when I feel the life energy in my body condensing in another way. She already believed what Suyi said. Otherwise it would be impossible to explain why she was a virgin but was able to condense the holy breast. It's just that, replenishment is needed every week, which is a bit too frequent. Livelia glanced at the blonde elf girl beside her, barely perceptible. The only ones who know about this are Lefia and I. How about, let her go in my place occasionally. But if the clan starts an expedition, Lefia and I will not have time. It seems that we need to gather the strength of the elves in Orario. At the same time, Suyi also returned to his shop. Lady Hestia, I brought you food. Hearing his call, the lowly goddess who had already finished get off work and was lying on the table suddenly became energetic. You're back so soon. I thought you were going to chat with 9 demon princesses until late. Although she knew in her heart that Hestia didn't know what had just happened. But to Suyi, these words sounded like a teasing to him. Well, it's actually no big deal. Hestia approached Suyi with a wary look on her face, sniffing him like a puppy. Finally, she stood on tiptoe and focused her eyes on Suyi's chin. Wow, such a strong residue of elven magic. Did you drink the magic wine brewed by the elves? What's magic wine? Suyi asked, half out of curiosity and half wanting to change the subject. The elves have this kind of industry. A specialty of the elves. Although not as good as the sacred wine of the god Soma, it is very popular among spellcasters. The single-threaded lowly goddess was indeed diverted by Suyi. But this kind of wine is very expensive. I guess only elven royals like Livelia can treat others to it at will. I see. But doesn't Lady Hestia stay at home all day reading novels? How do you know all this? Olario has a publication that writes about these anecdotes. Don't underestimate the guild's entertainment industry. The first time Hestia lectured Sue, he had the urge to get back at her. But considering that the topic just now has finally been settled smoothly, let's forget it. After feeding Hestia, Suyi returned to the studio on the second floor of the store, suppressed his excitement and opened the system panel. The previous gain state has not disappeared yet. Holy milk filling Livia improves the effect of the stigma alchemy ability, and increases your own magic damage by 50% for 30 minutes, permanently reduces magic consumption by 3%, and can be effective up to 9 times. The 9 demon princesses holy milk buff did not disappoint Suyi. In addition to the 50% magic damage bonus, it can also permanently reduce mana consumption by 3%. The most important thing is that this effect can be stacked 9 times, which means reducing mana consumption by 27%. It can actually obtain a permanent buff effect. As expected of the strongest magician in Orario. It seems that I should try different kinds of holy milk in the future. Maybe there will be unexpected surprises. Although convincing the other party to donate the holy milk is difficult in itself. This time, Suyi relied on the magical effect of the magic crystal to convince Livelia. If there wasn't such a thing as holy milk, I was afraid that I would be subjected to physical amnesia by the top-level magic wand in her hand, which was worth 340 million fares. The affairs of Orario have been dealt with for the time being, and there is still some time before I can rest. Because he had already explored the sunken sea today, Suyi went straight back to the Black Bullet world. Yenju had already returned to the Tiantong Civilian Security Company before him. When Suyi arrived, Zhang, who had just returned from school, was already sitting in the armchair in the office. You're back so late, where have you been? Seeing Suyi pushing the door in, Mu rushed forward as if he had found a savior. That girl over there is your starter. Yes, her name is Enju Hera. Suyi nodded and pulled Yenju, who was waiting a little bored, to his side. Enju, this is the president of our company, Tendo Kimura. Enju blinked and suddenly stared at Kasara's chest and said, "Brother, why do my sister's breasts have to be so big?" Well, being big does have its advantages. Then, both Yanju and Suyi were hit by angry elbows from the blushing Kasara. Can you two use your tacit understanding to complete the commission? There are two types of commissions for police companies. One is the commission within the city. One is a commission for the restricted area outside the monolith. Most of the commissions in the city are relatively safe and of low difficulty, and there are very few commissions related to Gastrula. After all, if protozomes appeared in a city protected by a monolith, the end of humanity would probably be here. But because of this, the commission remuneration in the city is very low, and the improvement of IP ranking is also very limited. The Forbidden Zone refers to the area outside the giant stone tablet made of superholmium alloy, which is full of protozomes. It is a paradise for protozomes and a place that is difficult for humans to set foot in. That's why it's called the Forbidden Zone for humans. The commissions related to the restricted area will have their rewards greatly increased because they have to face dangerous gastruli. But there is also an extremely high risk of death, which is like dancing on the edge of a knife for the police. A newbie, like Suyi who has just registered as a police officer has no chance of being commissioned to work in the restricted area for the time being. After all, the client also needs to look at the IP ranking of the police partner who accepts the commission. Of course, there is another situation that will cause the Tokyo district government to issue an emergency recruitment order. Even a novice like Suyi can participate and go to the Forbidden Area 063 to carry out the commission. This is the case. Tokyo is facing an emergency that could endanger the safety of the city. An urgent news interruption. The TV screen in the office that was playing a TV series suddenly changed to a news studio. This unexpected change caused the three of them to look at him at the same time. The screen was filming the restricted area outside the monolith from a helicopter's perspective. The restricted area is full of huge trees and lush vegetation, just like a primeval forest that has not been contaminated by modern civilization. This is deep in the restricted area, 120 kilometers away from Tokyo. The host's voice was a little trembling, but he still broadcasted very professionally. Dear viewers, please look, there was no such huge building at this location yesterday. Almost overnight, this thing that looks like a honeycomb grew out of the restricted area. What on earth is it? Why is it here? Is it related to the zodiac that destroyed the world? I hope the relevant personnel, experts and scholars can provide information as soon as possible. What is that? A flying protostomach? No. The scene is forcibly cut off here. I don't know whether it was not shown because the equipment was damaged or the scene was too bloody. It's troublesome. Tian Tongmu frowned and looked serious, as if the cheerful atmosphere just now was just a dream. There are protogastric animals that can fly so high. It has never appeared before. And what's inside that huge beehive? This problem should keep the top executives in Tokyo district awake all night. No one except Suyi will know the answer. At this moment, a huge wave had already been set off in the former's heart. Isn't this the nest of the queen bee? Could it be that the boss in Terraria has also been infected by the enterovirus? Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.